Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matt's Wednesday night therapy show that we call The Hang Up. Somebody in chat, when I mentioned that it was therapy time, asked if they could bill me, and I was like, yeah, I will forward the bill to Medicaid, because that's going to get paid for sure. How are you all doing? Welcome to The Hang Up here on the line. My name's Matt Dillahunty, and for those who don't know, not only was I raised as a fundamentalist Christian, but I joined the United States Navy right out of high school and served during the Gulf War. And around that time, I became aware of, thanks to my mom, Rush Limbaugh. And because I was a fundamentalist Christian and because I had those leanings, I very quickly became a full-on Rush Limbaugh ditto head. He would do a long, I think, 3-hour radio show. And I would go out during my lunch break and just eat in the car and listen to a solid hour of that. I owned his books, including The Way Things Ought to Be. And tonight I want to talk about the way things used to be, because I'm flummoxed. Simulation theory is something that I don't accept. I don't see good reason to accept. And yet every single day the world gets weirder and weirder to the point where I'm starting to, hey, hang on, am I living in a simulation? And are they pumping things in, whoever or whatever, in order to see how long it takes me to figure it out? Because the things that we know ought to change people's minds, not changing people's minds. The sources that we know are the most reliable, no source is going to be perfect, but most reliable, are being disregarded. There's irrationality, there's critical or conspiracy theorist thinking, there's science denial. I was at, and my apologies today to the service people who were there, but we were out getting lunch, and some Army folks came in, and of course they've got their names on their tops. And one of them was named Lackey, and another one's name was Hassler. And I was like, these can't even be real names. It's like, hey, we're going down to the gas station here to get some lunch. Grab Hassler and the Lackey, and we'll go, pick us up some food. Matt'll never figure that one out. And, I get it. There's all kinds of cool names like that. And my apologies to those individuals. It's just, you start seeing more things that are weird when you are confused. Like, we live in what I would have, as a teenager or someone in my 20s, thought was the Weekly World News version of the world. For those who don't know, National Enquirer, Weekly World News are these rags. I don't know if they still exist. Homebrewed kind of newspapers that you could get at the gas station with, vampire baby living in New Jersey and blah, blah, blah. And I used to like stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I have a collection of books. I have some extras. I have a full collection, and then I have some one-offs from this series that was called Out of This World. It's the Illustrated Library of the Bizarre and Extraordinary. This is volume 2. I think there's 20 or maybe a little more than 20. But it's stories from around the world, things like, oh, here's Drive Out the Devil. The devil's still wandering the world in search of souls. That's the official belief of the church. And when it goes through this, there's entire sections here on secret hidden codes and alien stuff, and it's all the Prince of Playboys. Here, Ghouls, Sickened, Lindbergh. It's fun. And I was always fascinated by this stuff because it was like, how do I know whether any of this is true or not? Digging into stuff like this is what helped me figure out that I didn't have good reason to believe my religious beliefs were justified, and a number of other beliefs seemed unjustified. I was relying on fallacious appeals and questionable and dubious authorities, and it really, prompted me to think, what would the world look like if this were actually true? If Hey, I saw a Columbo meme this morning that was like, excuse me, one more thing. Um, why would the Republicans unanimously vote to not release files that don't exist? And it's like, yeah, sensible things like that should be an immediate eye opener for people aren't. What used to be shocking, school shootings, they're passe now. We were out this morning shopping, and I was talking about all the weird stuff in the news, and Arden goes, "I'll bet you don't know that there was a church shooting yesterday." She was right. I did not know. School shootings used to be shocking. Church shootings used to be shocking. Dictator regimes threatening human rights used to be shocking. It used to be something that America stood against. Now we're just lining up with them. You have the hashtag All Lives Matter people advocating for the alligator Auschwitz. What are you supposed to do with that? You guys, all lives matter except for the ones you want to deport, lock up with alligators, deny their independence and their freedom and their sovereignty. You know what I wish mattered? Due process, the rule of law, truth. What used to be breaking news is now the news of the minute. Everything is breaking news, which means nothing is breaking news, which means the news is just broken. I get more. Oh, I can hear them already. See, this is what's wrong with Matt. He's getting his news from no. I get my news from a lot of different sources, but I tend to learn more from Jon Stewart and Seth Meyers than anybody on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox. The teams of people that are there doing good work, that's where I'm learning more. What I get are news bits, and then I want to dig in a little deeper. What used to be a news story for more than a minute? I don't know. OJ trial, 9/11. I mean, we talked about those things constantly for ages. Now, I barely know anything about the Diddy trial. Don't really care. Kind of thankful that I didn't spend as much time on it. I know some people were absolutely obsessed with it. But every news story is the same flash in the pan noise in the signal that we ignore everywhere. What used to upset people? Some of the same stuff that upsets them now, although they don't seem to be acting as if those things upset them now. You know, injustice, that was upsetting. The price of food, except it was the actual price of food and bills and gasoline that was upsetting, and not the fictional price that they claim, and then the fictional price that they claim they fixed it to. Bizarre. What used to convince people of the truth was good evidence, and people trusted science and scientists. It was so prevalent that, remember, there were commercials where it was 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Trident for their patients who chew gum. And everybody in the commercials for anything remotely science-y put them in a lab coat, because that portrays the relevant authority and people trust it. And that actually has backfired, I think, because now everybody's aware. Just because you're a scientist, just because you wear a lab coat, just because you have a degree, doesn't mean you're right, doesn't mean you're diligent, doesn't mean that your information is reliable. And then you have, we've found some conspiracy stuff, and that means that conspiracies are possible, and that means conspiracies are likely, and that means conspiracies are happening all the time. That means you can't trust the official story. It's the government story. Never mind the fact that the government is just us. It's a participatory government. We're elected. The proof of this is that we have idiots like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, people who shouldn't be anywhere near legislation. They're there because we lied to everybody and said, hey, when you grow up, you can be anything you want. And now it's fucking true. because nobody cares about qualifications. Nobody cares about whether or not you should be in a job. It's never been a world where it's more about who you know and who you can convince. We have flat earthers. We have science deniers. We have vaccine deniers. We have everything's a conspiracy. You can't trust the official story, as if the official story is anything other than, hey, we got the recognized experts in this field to review this and compile a document for our review. It says what it says. The data say what they say. And then you have to decide. Cool. Except that we've raised an entire generation, or maybe two, without the skills to tell the difference between what's true and what's not. Another problem for the way things used to be, nobody remembers anything. I don't remember phone numbers. I don't remember contact information. My phone remembers everything for me. If I lose my phone, you might as well just, throw me overboard. But we also don't remember what happened recently. Every single minute of every day is an overwhelming flood of some of the most bizarre news stories that just boggle my mind. And they're actively lying. Oh, we're going to release the Epstein documents. Oh, the Epstein documents are on my desk. Oh, there is no client list, and we're not going to be releasing anything. Nobody thought that there was actually like hey, look, here's a handwritten thing on Jeffrey Epstein letterhead. Here's my clients. That's not what anybody meant. What they meant is release the information to show what was going on and what we know about what was going on. The MAGA supporters are making excuses. Trump is actively suggesting that the files were just invented by Obama and Clinton and Biden. Never mind the fact that if they were invented by Obama and Clinton and Biden, why didn't they use them? Like, this is how stupid our president is, and everybody who works with him and aligns with him, you are all fucking idiots. You are allowing him to lie directly to your face with stories that make no fucking sense. And then you, because you're in a cult and you have to appease your leader, you rationalize it away. See, one of the questions that I learned to ask myself when I started evaluating my religion and other claims and the things in the Out of This World books was this: if this were true, what are the implications of that? What will we see? What else would we be seeing? If, in fact, the democratic machine invented a fictional document on the off chance that Trump ever got elected president again, why didn't they use it? Why didn't they use it before the election? Why didn't they use it, right before election day? Why didn't they use it in between election day and now? Oh, well, they're in it too. Wait, they invented a fictional document and then didn't hide the stuff that incriminates them? By the way, there's a fundamental difference between everyone I know on the left and everyone I know on the right. Everyone I know on the left, once those documents released, no matter who the fuck's in there. If there are Democrats in there, and there almost certainly are, if Bill Clinton is, fuck them all. Fuck them in the face with the truth and make them pay. See, we don't just say, ooh, the rule of law matters and, we want justice. We actually stand behind what we say. I want every one of them knocked the fuck out of U.S. politics, in jail or in prison if they need to be. I don't give a shit if they were, if it's AOC, if it's Bernie. I don't care. On the other hand, everybody who's on the right are like, well, can't trust it. We don't know who's in there. It's a long time ago. I mean, if Trump hung out with Epstein in the 80s and maybe saw some stuff or did some stuff, he's a different man now. I mean, that was 50 years ago. Well, no, but it wasn't 50 years ago. But since as long as you're exaggerating, go ahead and do that in there. It is bizarre to me. And they fall in line. Oh, they pushed back. Charlie Kirk pushed back saying, we need to be releasing these Epstein files. And he went from, we need to be releasing those to, I will trust my government faster than he could change clothes after the event. He went from having an event where he was saying we need to release this to saying, you know what? I'm going to trust my people in the government. I thought you've been saying that's what we couldn't do. And why did you choose to trust the people who you know are lying to you and who you know gave you your fucking marching orders, you obvious liar and shill? Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he dangled his toes in the waters of maybe we should release the Epstein files. I mean, I haven't seen him. I don't know what's in there. I don't know who it could hurt, but the people are genuinely curious and they should be able to see it and maybe draw their own conclusions. That's him doing a couple different things. That's him hedging his bets so that if the documents get released and they end up destroying the administration, he can say, hey, I wanted those documents released. And if they don't get released, he's got adequate cover to protect himself from any consequences at all. I still talk about, and will continue to talk about, religion and conspiracy thinking, conspiracy theories, because I advocate for skepticism, humanism. I think your beliefs should be justified. And I think too many people don't care whether or not their beliefs are justified and operate based on their own biases and whether it feels good. We're going to take calls tonight. I will always prioritize theistic callers. So if you're someone, it's going to be hard for us to prioritize, and I'll explain that today. But if you're someone who wants to call in and defend an actual God belief that impacts the world in some way, go for it. If you want to call in to defend a God that's a bong rip, I think God is everywhere and everything, or I have this esoteric thing where I'm the only one that believes it, we'll probably spend less time on that because it's not beneficial to spend a whole bunch of time trying to help one person that has one esoteric set of beliefs that doesn't impact pretty much anybody else. There are some object lessons to be learned from it, and I'm excited to try that. But we don't have a call screener today, and so we're going with the auto screener to try to get through stuff. And what that means is when I look over here, I see a name and a question. If it's something that I don't think is suitable for the show, I'm just going to drop those callers. But we're going to try and go through these and maybe kind of throw caution to the wind and see if we get some good calls out of this. But take a minute to please join me in welcoming my guest tonight, Ian Harris. How are you, sir?
I am good. How are you doing? Well, that's a lie. I've been much better, but I'm hanging in there.
I see that you've visited your barber more recently than I have. So
yes, slightly.
I feel like a hippie compared to you. I've got fuzz right there. It's annoying.
Yeah, so, no, I got in yesterday. Can I ask? I know. I mean, I've known you for many, many years, and you probably told these stories a billion times on here. But it always, and for those of you who haven't heard the story, whatever that is, I'd like to know as well. But it always is a little bit baffling to me when I hear you say, how you used to be, starting about how you were a Rush Limbaugh ditto head, and whatever. And the thing is, because I know you from this space, and I don't know, it's been a long time, at least 10, 15 years that I've known you or known of you or been involved in cons or whatever that we were both at. And I've never been in that space. And I think of myself generally as I'm a rational thinker. I'm a pretty smart guy. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the world or whatever, but I'm usually pretty good with these types of things, with rational arguments. I've never been a conspiracy theorist, of all that sort of stuff. And I watch your way you argue and the way you discuss things with people. And I'm usually kind of full of myself, but I admit you are much better at what you do than if I were trying to do that. Like I have those, you're so good at putting together your thoughts, putting together your words, putting together your ideas, and you understand logical fallacies, and you understand all these things, which I feel like I completely understand as well. but being able to articulate them and put them out there, I just don't have that ability that you have. So it's mind-boggling to me that you ever had that you were ever in that other space. It's interesting to me, like because I'm like, I can't imagine myself ever being in that space.
Yeah, I think I can explain it. There are limits. Like, I can still put myself back in some of that mindset. You know, for example, I was telling Arden today, I was never particularly like anti-LGBTQ stuff. I viewed it as, hey, this is a sin. God's going to deal with it. That's not my business. God's here and he's given us all freedom, and you are free to do what you want. And he's given some people over to reprobate. God is just, and he will make sure it's all right. That's not for me to worry about. My job is to love them and be a representative of Christ, to try to lead them through the Holy Spirit to be convicted and be saved. So for things like that, I wasn't anywhere near like Westboro Baptist Church type stuff. On the rest of it, I grew up in rural Missouri with, I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, 5, 6, 7 days a week, depending on what was going on. My friend group was there, which is why I went. I went to church more than my folks. My folks were there like Sunday mornings and occasional special things. I went because I enjoyed it, and that's where my friends were. And because of that, I was especially sheltered, and despite being generally bright, was knowledge-wise pretty stupid about the way the world worked by the time I got out of high school. And I didn't have a lot of options because I had been bored in school. I almost flunked out. I could show up and ace tests without doing any studying. I'd just stop showing up, or I would sleep through class, and I almost flunked out because there was nothing there that was challenging or interesting. And so I missed a lot of stuff. And when you come from that, or when I came from that, and I had to teach myself so much that I should have been taught, and I should have learned, and I don't even think I had the opportunity to learn critical thinking and logical fallacies and epistemology. I didn't even know what the word epistemology was.
Right.
And I always said, I don't claim to have any expertise in anything, but to the extent that I might, I think I'm pretty good at explaining difficult concepts in a way where most people can probably grasp them. And it's because I had to teach myself a good chunk of that. And when you do that, when you're an obsessive learner and taught yourself something where you have another aha moment and another aha moment, it just sits there. And instead of being the kind of matter of fact, it's pivotal. It's an epiphany. And while I forget stuff all the time, I don't forget that stuff. I had to work. And it was, when I was listening to Rush, it was reinforcing things that I had been taught growing up. And it was right after that where that stuff started coming into conflict with my actual life, because I was in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I had some great sailors that worked for me that ended up being kicked out for being gay. And the person who stayed was just a monumental piece of crap. And I'm like, how is this just? Here's a person who had a career and a good person, and because they've got a boyfriend, you're going to destroy their career, while this other dude that helped destroy it is only in the military to avoid going to fucking prison. There's something broken here. And I think that process of figuring out what was broken, I used to think that I was in an incredibly negative headspace, because I went to work for Dell and other companies doing software testing and hardware testing. And so here I am finding fallacies, finding broken stuff. And I let myself kind of feel bad, because I was like, everything I do is negative. It's all about, let me spot your fallacy. Let me find what's broken with this. And I realized one day, you can't find what's broken with the software or with the hardware if you don't know what it's supposed to look like when it's working correctly. And finding a fallacy is not a negative thing, and finding a bug is not a negative thing. Those are good things. You are weeding out the problems so that things work better for everybody. And it took me from that negative headspace to really kind of enjoying the critical aspect, because people would view even the word critical as a pejorative or a negative, context, when I think it's beautiful. I can still enjoy all kinds of stuff, but I can look at it with a critical eye and still enjoy it.
No, it's funny because you were talking about earlier. While you were doing your intro, I was taking down notes about things that I think about often in regard to why are we here? Why are people not convinced of things anymore? And it's funny because the big thing I think of is tribalism and friend group, and where your information comes from. And I don't like to blame everything necessarily on the internet, but one thing is, you find that all the time with what people think is negative. I hear this all the time with me, because I'm always a problem solver. And someone it complains about something, and I give a solution, and they go, "Quit giving solutions, just listen to me." And I go, "Yeah, but you're going to complain about it next week, and then I'm going to be fucking pissed that you didn't take my solution." But I'm always seen as being negative. People are always like, why are you being so negative? I'm like, no, I'm trying to solve your problem. That's not being negative. And I realize when you put all those things together, this idea that solving problems and coming up with pointing out fallacies, that's seen as negative. And then you see that this idea with these friend groups, right? Like, this is my tribal group. And I think when we mix that with what we have, the social media these days, I think partly we just didn't used to see. I think there's a dumbing down of society, but I think we also didn't see how dumb or how weird or how odd or whatever people were, because we didn't see hundreds or thousands of people a day all over the country and the world, right, like we do now. And you just didn't know that your cousin in Oklahoma was a dipshit. You just knew, yeah, maybe he was a little bit of a dipshit, but you didn't know how deep his dipshittery went. And now you get to see it on full display every day. And you couple all those things with, now tribalism is so deep, and I think also because of the social media, everybody has this 15 minutes of fame thing, where you're a star on your own page, and everyone thinks they're Louis C.K. or Dave Chappelle or whoever, and they think they're owning somebody, they're doing something, and it's become this thing where I really feel like I've seen people radicalize themselves by, I'm this, and I'm gonna own these guys, and I'm gonna be bombastic online, and and eventually they say these things so much, and their feeds and their algorithms and their confirmation biases of these sources that they think are as legitimate. I mean, people think that the internet news that they see is just as legitimate as any other news, and they don't know how to discern the difference. And when the algorithms are feeding them the same thing, and all these things combine with them, getting reactions from people and the 15 minutes of fame that they're saying these crazy things, I feel like people have literally radicalized themselves in a very rapid fashion that used to take, the Germans handing out pamphlets and rallies, and now you can do it online with a couple of YouTube videos.
Yeah, it could be that some aspects of the internet were just a mistake. I mean, our brains aren't capable of processing the amount of information with any sort of reliability. Your dipshit cousin and Neil deGrasse Tyson are on somewhat equal footing in many spaces online. And in some cases, your cousin's going to get more support than Neil deGrasse Tyson would. And it's like, you're talking about people like, oh, I'm this, and the self-radicalization. I had somebody the other day tell me that they're an intellectual, and in the history of the world, nobody's self-identified as an intellectual has been remotely fucking impressive to me or anybody that I know. Granted, anybody that I know is a fairly small pool. But also then tried to explain to me that not only were they an intellectual, but they were an empathetic humanist while supporting absolutely terrible things like the alligator Auschwitz and stuff like that. It was bizarre. But, you talked about the problem solving thing. I have to preface this. What I'm going to say can easily be viewed as sexist, but that was part of the joke. So my ex-wife, Beth, would come to me with problems, and I would constantly try to solve them. And it took a while, but I had to learn that sometimes when people come to you with problems, they're not looking for a solution. They're looking for a sympathetic, ear. And so what we got to where when she'd come with me a problem, this was her suggestion. And I was supposed to ask, do you want me to listen with my man ears or my woman ears? And if I listened with my man ears, I was supposed to come up with a solution to the problem. And if I was listening with my woman ears, I was supposed to say, I told you that bitch was crazy, because she's just, complaining about something. So it's,
but I mean, I know you're semi-joking, but you're also putting on I really also don't think that is sexist, in that whether it's, I know that there are people who are going to be out there and say, well, that's because women's brains is different than men's brains, whatever. But there is also a social, my wife says this all the time. When she was younger, she's very smart, and I was like kind of a math whiz, like my whole life. Like that's kind of my thing. And when we started dating right out of high school, and she was starting to be a teacher and she had to do all the math stuff, I was helping her with the math stuff. And she's like, why didn't anybody ever teach it to me this way? And then all of a sudden she figured it all out. And she goes, when I was younger, I was always kind of taught that women aren't good at math or whatever. And I just didn't really put my time into math. No one taught it properly. And there might be some physical things, maybe not men or women, maybe different humans. Some people are much better at, my wife and my daughter are so good at language. I'm a horrible at learning a new language. It doesn't work right. They can study and speak the language in like a couple months. I'm like 9 years of doing Spanish. And I'm still like, donde está? Like Hank Hill's wife. And but it's funny because that's just, my daughter and my wife are that way, where they're like, most time they're like, we don't want you to solve it. Just let us rant, let us, get it out. And that's hard for me, but I'm doing my best to learn. But I don't think that's a sexist thing. I think there are people who, regardless of why, and even if it is more women than men, I think it might be that's how some people are taught and modeled, that this is how we do things. I mean, think about back in the 50s, women do this, men don't show their fear, their emotions, and all these things that we've been taught for no freaking reason.
Yeah, it's the stereotypes that we were basically mocking, not anything about real men or real women. It was this is how society views this. So it was an inside joke of, okay, I'm clearly broken. Should I have my man ears on or my woman ears for this one? But yeah, so we've got callers lined up. I want to remind everybody, we're going to jump in. We're going to take calls. I'm going to do everything in my power to maintain my zen and make Ian look like the asshole tonight. Yes. So congrats. But also, we're going to read all the super chats over $10 once all the calls are done. Who knows how long we're going to go? And as I mentioned, we don't have a call screener. So please exercise some patience. We're going to probably have to do a little bit of tap dancing to begin with. And let's see. So Hannah is calling. Hannah, do you have preferred pronouns, and where are you from? Hello, Hannah? Okay, you're calling on a web client, which means if you're on your phone, you may have to tap your phone to wake it up and then tap the browser to wake that up, because those things would go to sleep and you've been on hold for quite a while. Hannah, are you there? Okay, we're going to put Hannah back in the queue. Here we go. Jacob, pronouns he, him, calling from Missouri, says he's been doing some research on something I care a lot about. And okay. Hey, Jacob, you're on with Ian and Matt. How are you? What's going on?
Matt, I'm thrilled to be talking with you. It's my first time calling in, and just thrilled to be here.
It says you called back in November of 2024.
Oh, that's right. I called in. I didn't connect. My first time connecting with you.
Sweet. I'm not calling you a liar. Yeah. I just show that we had called before. But yeah, welcome. How can
I know you're all for the pedantics, and I respect it. I'm calling you about this concept you've talked a lot about, called Deepities, and I know that you've been applying it in the religious realm all the time. That's where it came from Daniel Dennett, and it revealed something to me. You've been talking about politics all at the start of this show here, and I'm seeing that same thing going on. I'm seeing how these trivial truths are being used to smuggle in this underlying harm. And I'm seeing it all across our political spectrum. I'm seeing it weaponized. I'm seeing that the new battlefield today isn't with weapons, but it's in the mind. And these rhetorical traps are being used to trick people into thinking that they're doing the right thing, but really it's smuggling in all this harm. And I was wondering how if you had made any connection from the religious side of Deepity into taking it into the world of politics.
I don't view Deepities as tied to religion at all. I mean, just like I don't consider fallacies tied to religion at all. There are fallacies and fallacious arguments everywhere, and there are Deepities everywhere. By the way, for those who don't know, a Deepity, a term coined by Dan Dennett, actually, I believe it was his daughter that coined the term, is when to the extent that a statement that seems profound, to the extent that it is true, it is in fact trivial. And to the extent that it is profound, it is in fact false. So something like love is all you need is one of the prime examples of a Deepity, because love isn't in fact all you need. But in the metaphorical profound sense, it's actually kind of trivial, even though it's not true. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. We see errors in thinking everywhere. I don't limit them to a particular realm.
Well, what I've found is that Deepities, they're kind of the stage that all of these fallacies are operating on, and so the fallacies are these things that make it so that the smuggling of that false profoundness, that's where it happens, is in the Deepity. The fallacies are used to tap dance on the stage of Deepity to
quick,
pass
Jacob.
off this stuff.
I need you to back off your mic just a little bit. You're overdriving it to scratchiness on a couple things.
Thank you.
But yes, a fallacious argument is one where a premise is not accepted. That could be because it's false or not accepted, or it could be because it is sort of some version of a Deepity. I'm lost here as to what the point is, or what we're supposed to get out of this, because I don't know what the point you're trying to get to.
Everything that you hate in the world that you were complaining about, I think, is derived from this pattern here. You had said all lives matter.
I think what you just said is a Deepity. I think what you just said is a Deepity. I don't think, speaking that broadly, that everything I was complaining about is the result of a Deepity. I don't think that that's true. I think to the extent that it is true, it's trivial, because we're just talking about errors in thinking. And to the extent that what you're saying is profound, it's actually false.
Okay. I may have overstepped. I know you appreciate language, and sometimes I overstep a little bit on that, so I appreciate that. Like for an example, that all lives matter that you brought up, it is a Deepity. It's trivially true, right? We can all agree that literally all lives do matter, but its false profoundness is that it's used rhetorically to negate or minimize systemic racism and specific injustices faced by Black communities. So it's being weaponized. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Continue.
And so this is it's being used. You know how it's being used. It's being used to shift the focus from targeting anti-racism efforts into this vague universalism that is going to stall any meaningful discussion about racial inequality. And it doesn't stop here. Like all of these really annoying phrases, or most of them, they're so often Deepities. And I mean, they're being used to justify war efforts, right? It's does Israel have a right to defend itself? And all of these things, they're using the language to justify such enormous harm.
I think we're going to move on, Jacob, because I don't mean to be insulting, but I think what we're seeing here is an issue of like the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, where you've now become aware of Deepity, and that is your hammer, and now every problem is a nail. But I don't think we're going to learn anything particularly useful out of saying, yes, everywhere in every realm there are people who are engaged in hyperbole and sloppy thinking.
Well, before we move on, if I may, do you have any idea about what we could do about this when we're seeing these machines of propaganda utilizing this tool?
Yes, you teach critical thinking skills and you include them in state schools curriculum and as a requirement across the board. That's one step.
This isn't anything new, and you know what Matt just said is it's the same thing as what you're talking about, Jacob. Is like the same thing as people saying, you know, both parties are exactly the same, or all these kind of. There's tons of in comedy. I always say like the lowest form of humor is the humor that has the comedy that has the catchphrases like "get her done" and that's what you're repeating over and over. I'm not trying to bash on any particular one comedian or whatever, but it's like
Larry's coming after you.
I call it, or sometimes I call it smart comedy for dumb people, where you hear Joe People, oh, it's so brilliant, and I go, no, that's really dumb and obvious, but I get why you think it's brilliant because you don't think much about things. So I just think that we have this everywhere. It's not just in politics, and people use hyperbole. People don't understand critical thinking, like Matt said, and people it's really easy for people to brand. To use these things to brand and get in people's heads. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when people say that the left doesn't know how to what's the word with the talk? We're talking about the not coding, marketing or whatever. There's a thing that they always say that the Democrats are really bad at something, labeling, talking, just pointing their points out, and there's a word for it. I'm drawing a blank. And the right is so good at it. And yes, but also because the right says stuff like build a wall. They go, yeah, build the wall. And if you said that to people on the left, they'd be like, well, how do you build this wall? And what would this wall encompass? And why would we build a wall? And how is Mexico going to pay for it? Because not everyone on the left, but there are certain groups of people that we care about the facts and we care about the data and we care about where these things are coming from. And we're not roped into a way of thinking because someone said a catchphrase that we can get behind and put on a bumper sticker. And unfortunately, that's how a giant portion of our country and the world is. It's bumper sticker philosophy, and that's all it is. And the only way to get over that is long term, like Matt said. I mean, teaching critical thinking and teaching people where to get good information. And I mean, I don't think there's a fix to it, and I don't think it's a new problem.
Yeah, it comes from the Nazi propaganda machine. It's not new at all. They use the same techniques. Well, thank you guys for really thinking about this. I'd love to have real long form conversation about this. I know you guys have a show to continue, so thank you so much for taking my call here and putting your thoughts on this.
Yeah, sure, appreciate it. It is strange to me, and in what could be a profound way, but not at the current moment, that we often forget, especially when it comes to ideas that we have perhaps long been accustomed to or that we've known, for so long. There's a quote from Bertrand Russell that says, every now and then I find it wise to hang a question mark on things I've long taken for granted. And one of the things that I've tried to do and failed many, many times is keep in mind that every one of these shows is somebody's first exposure to me, first exposure to you, first exposure to the ideas that we're talking about. And it's, I guess, pretty easy to just slip, and I know I do this, slip into, I'm just going to say this and assume that everybody, we all speak English, but we don't all have the same understanding of the same terms in the same way. And, it's no problem at all with the caller learning about Deepities and then seeing where they implement somewhere else. I just don't think that there's anything particularly profound about recognizing that we think this way. It might have been, I think the most profound thing was in Dennett drawing attention to this particular type of thought error and giving it a cool name.
Right.
But the question of what to do with it. I don't know what a practical solution is now. I think, teaching skepticism, critical thinking is the only hope. How do you do that, though, is the other question. You can say, oh, what's the solution? Well, you teach critical thinking. Yeah, but how do you do that? I don't know, because I've been trying to do aspects of that for 20 years, but I'm not in a position to teach your kids, apart from them watching the videos. We're not teaching it in schools. And Arden's leaving this weekend. She's going to be speaking at the Psycho-Student Alliance convention. I'm
supposed to be performing there.
Are you going?
I wasn't able to do it, so I got two friends to do it instead. I wanted to really bad, but I had something this weekend that conflicted. So, that'd have been cool. I would have hung out with Arden. That'd have been fun.
She's also doing NanoCon, but so she's talking about transphobia within the secular community. But it's not just let me rip on these individuals in the secular community who have it wrong. It's science and it's data, and it's one of those things of, this is a tiny portion of the population. Name another issue as relatively minimized in its impact that we spend this much time talking about. There's more time spent talking about trans issues than there is about climate change. I mean, that's a big fucking deal. Maybe it's because nobody thinks we can do anything about that, but damn it, we can make sure that somebody stays out of the wrong bathroom. As long as we make sure that there are good people out there to make them lift up their skirt and check their genitalia. I'm starting to think maybe the mark of the beast is where we all have to have our chromosomes tattooed on our forehead. Just so that a fragile guy doesn't find himself attracted to somebody whose chromosomes he has an objection to, because that's what's really going on. All right, let's try Hannah again. Yeah. Hannah, are you there? Hannah, can you hear me? All right, let's see if we can try to figure out what Hannah's asking from the description here. How would you compare humanism values at work to an Abrahamic belief system? I hear something, Hannah. Are you there?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Hannah, we can hear you. Thank you so much. You had a question for us. I guess, where are you calling from, and do you have preferred pronouns in case we need to reference you in the... Hello?
Oh.
Okay. Well, we were able to hear Hannah. Hannah, if you're on your cell phone, you're on the web client, you may need to tap your phone to wake it up and tap the browser to wake it up. But how would you compare humanism?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So were you asking me where I'm calling from?
I was asking where you were calling from, if you had preferred pronouns, and either way, you can rattle that off and tell us what you called about. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Hannah. I'm calling from Ireland, but I'm actually Maltese, so sorry for the lack of Irish accent. And I'm an atheist.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, so you read out my question. I had you reading it out, so that's pretty much it.
Well, I'm not sure I understood it, and I never finished reading it. So why don't you just go ahead and ask us, and we'll see.
So my question is, I'm having an ongoing conversation with my spouse, and it's about comparing humanism to Islam, basically. And when I'm asked to bring up examples of humanism, how it works in practice, it's difficult for me to do that because we don't have, I think we have laws and values and stuff based on humanism, but we don't have a system I can point to and like, see that country, when they do this, that's humanism. I don't know if that explains it.
Yeah, I think I understand. Are you saying because humanism doesn't have a list of thou shalt nots and thou shalts the way some other religions do, it's not as easy to talk about it as it is to talk about those other religions?
Exactly.
Okay. So first of all, I'd say that those other religions shouldn't be easy to talk about either, because there's thousands of different denominations of Christianity that disagree on every single point of doctrine. Yeah, you can point to what the Bible says, but Christians notoriously cherry pick what they're going to pay attention to and not, and they all disagree. I would say that when it comes to humanism, you've got 3 versions of the humanist manifestos that go through at least the foundations, and the rest of it, maybe humanism isn't something that is ready to go for people who would like to have everything handed to them like a divine command. It requires a little more effort than that. And it's one of the reasons why I lazily stayed with a version of Christianity for a while, because the effort involved in thinking about, okay, why is it this way? How many different things do I have to understand before I know? Whereas, as a Christian, oh, God said it, that's it. Or I'm convinced God said it and that's it. I don't know, Ian, how would you explain something like humanism if you're dealing with somebody who's like, well, what do they stand for and how do we know?
I think for me, because I don't have, I guess I consider myself a humanist on some level, but I don't know the exact tenets of if there are of humanism. But I mean, from my perspective as an atheist my whole life, who we were joking earlier, Matt, about calls himself empathetic, somebody who actually calls themselves these things. I feel like I have a few basic things that I base everything on. And the one big one for me is that I just need to look at is this servicing the greater good? Like, that's a huge one for me. And that's something that I can put on paper. Does this service the greater good? And, people always say the golden rule, and my friend, I don't know if you still talk to Emery much, but Emery one time corrected me, as he likes to do, and goes, the golden rule, no. It's not doing to others as you'd have them do unto you. Do unto others as they want done unto them. And I love that, because like, ask first, how do you like to be treated? What do you want me to call you? What do you want me to how do you want me to refer to you? How do you want me to treat you? Because he said, hey, maybe you don't want to get, treated this way, but they do want to get treated that way. Cool. That's fine. So those 2 things for me run my life. Like, I go, how do these people want to be treated? And can I, so I will treat them that way. And is what I'm doing more beneficial for the greater good, even if it's not beneficial to me? And sometimes that's a hard decision to make. That's how I feel about voting. Sometimes I have to vote against something that goes against my interest because I might like X, Y, and Z, but I might not ever speed and the whatever, but we need this law because other people are and it's killing people, whatever. And I vote against something that I personally don't want to do. But I mean, for me, those are my 2 big things. The platinum rule, I guess, and how does it affect the greater good? And those are 2 things, tangible things that you can write down, you can look at and say, show me something that's better than that. I think that far supersedes or far better than don't covet your oxen or whatever. Did we?
Hannah might have silenced again. Are you there, Hannah?
Tap and shake and move.
Okay. Well, hopefully we've got something approaching a useful answer there, because one of the difficulties is that maybe it's not supposed to be easy. Maybe part of the problem is giving people pat answers repeatedly has weakened their ability to evaluate why things are the way they are, or why they should be the way they are. And so, like, how do you tell what the truth is right up there with how do you tell what is morally permissible? What is the justification that you have or use for those sorts of things? And I don't know that there's ever an easy answer, or that there's an easy, obvious answer, but it is incredibly frustrating to be in a position where people want the easy answer and you can't give it to them.
That's actually a really good point. Back to what we were talking about earlier. With mindsets and with people, why are we where we are? People not only want the easy answer, but we find, and it's a personality trait. I find that a lot of people with whom I disagree with politically and religiously, whatever, often say things. I mean, we all know that people project and people speak, accuse you of things that they would do. But one of the things that people often say to me is, "Oh, well, what did Gavin Newsom say?" Or what did this and I go, I don't know. I don't listen to what one person says and take what they say as gospel. But in their minds, so many people have that. Well, this is what my guy said. And this is and they don't want to evaluate it. And they don't even think other people evaluate things. So I feel that that's when maybe you have that religious mindset. You're like, wait, no. Somebody has to tell me what I'm supposed to. There has to be a place where I can go to get the information. And you're right. Maybe that's not it. Maybe you have to evaluate the information for yourself on a few basic and ask the tough questions and wrestle with it. And people don't want to. They want to know, what did the guy say that I can listen to?
If we can trust the call screeners, it looks like we not only have a bunch of theists who are willing to defend their God, but they also have some questions and other stuff. William's calling from North Carolina. William, how are you? You're on with Ian and Matt.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's really cool. I've been, a big fan of your content for a while, and I don't agree with everything that you say, but I find it interesting nonetheless, and I think it's great to be a part of a bigger conversation on the topic.
Well, maybe someday
God.
You'll be more correct than you are now. So, what is it that you want to talk to about
Exactly.
God? Talk about with God, or talk about?
Yeah. So I've I feel like I'm in a unique position in comparison to people who are more, I guess, Orthodox Christian, or who like kind of go to church every day and do the whole song and dance. But I'm more like I've always been around people who've believed in God, and I've had this belief in God for as far back as I can remember.
Which God?
And well, the Christian God would be the one that I was exposed to the most, and who I personally
but being
felt,
exposed to something isn't necessarily what you believe. So that's why I was asking. I mean, so even if you were exposed to it, so you believe in some version of the Christian God?
Yeah, that would be the best way to put it. I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. But yes,
No, it's fine.
Some version of the Christian God.
Yeah. Why should we share your belief?
Yeah, so this is great. This is like what I wanted to really get into, because I have thought a lot about this. I agree with you in the sense that I would never feel comfortable just taking something on like pure faith or just because it makes me feel good. So I have done a lot of thinking about this belief that I have, and it really boils down to like two main things for me. And one is the very beginnings of the universe, and the other is morality.
Okay, what do you know? What do you know about the very beginnings of the universe? Because here's my position. I only know, as far as I can tell, we can only investigate up to the Planck time, or a very brief amount of time just past where the expansion began. Prior to that, I can't know anything. I don't even know how to know anything about the state of what was. If space and time began at that point, then it might just be absurd to talk about before that time, because there wasn't time before that, or maybe there was, maybe there's a meta time, we don't know. So I don't have any way to investigate. The math breaks down, which is the most reliable process of getting there. Why is it that you think you have a better capacity for investigating the origin of the universe than me or any of the scientists?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what I've spent a lot of time thinking about as well. Because I don't claim to have like a unique insight.
Well, you're claiming that you found the answer, and I haven't. So.
Okay, yeah, that's valid. So my reasoning is just that it's more so like I can't visualize or conceptualize there being a state of the universe that has always existed, like matter just being matter existing forever without some initial cause. Because if that were the case, then we would never like experience now, because there would be an infinite recession into the past.
So first of all, time and causality we haven't resolved. We don't necessarily know how it works. The impossibility of an infinite regress is a complete abstract thing. I'm only talking about the ability to investigate to determine what is the explanation for the way the universe is. I don't have the ability to investigate that. I don't know anybody who does. And the scientific community flatly asserts that we are currently, and who knows if forever, but we are currently blocked from investigating that. So you can sit here and talk about, there can't be an infinite regressor. You can't say anything at all about the state of the universe prior to the Planck time, including whether it existed, how long it existed, what might have been responsible for the expansion, whether that thing is a thinking agent, whether it's a thing at all. There's absolutely nothing that you can rationally justify about here's why this explanation for the universe is the right one.
Okay. So would you say then that there is not necessarily like a one-on-one relationship between like pure mathematics and like what is concretely absolutely true of the universe? Because I would agree with you that it's true. Like we don't know everything. I
don't understand what that question, how that question is relevant at all. Do you have some way of exploring prior to the Planck time?
Well, so the reason why I asked that was because
I'm sorry, that's a yes or no question. I'm sure that's a yes or no question. Do you have some way of exploring prior to the Planck time? Because the mathematics breaks down at that point, and so it doesn't matter what you're asking me about math. What is your method for exploring prior to the Planck time?
Okay. So to be truthful, I would say that I don't have a method for exploring.
So I am completely uninterested in your speculation. I want a method in order to be able to figure out whether or not your speculation is more likely to be correct than anybody else's. And you don't have that, nobody else does. So let's move on to the moral issue.
Okay. Fair enough. So the moral issue that I have is that I can't, again, fathom the idea of there being a non-objective kind of moral system that is.
That's too bad. That's too bad. Your lack of imagination. See, you try to use your existing imagination to justify the first argument, and now you're using your lack of imagination to justify the second argument. Do you have a way to prove that there is, in fact, an objective? Do you have a way to prove that there is, in fact, an objective moral standard?
Okay. Well, so to be fair,
no, that's a question. That's a question, William. That's a question, William. Do you have a way to prove that there is an objective moral standard?
Yes, I would say, because
we Please do
all agree on certain universe.
No,
okay, so
sorry. I'm sorry, William, but you've already failed instantly. The fact that we all agree on something, first of all, is not fucking true. And second of all, even if we all agree on something, that does not make a standard objective. That is a shared subjective understanding. So back to the question I asked, do you have a way to demonstrate that there is, in fact, an objective moral foundation or standard?
Okay, I think I see what you're asking. So I would say then no.
Okay. So then how does your desire for an objective moral standard and your failure to imagine that there couldn't be one, how does that not qualify as pure faith and not just feeling good when those are the two things that you eliminated at the start of this conversation, and both of them seem to absolutely apply to your moral position.
Right. So, okay, that's fair.
Okay,
I
then
would say
we're
that
done.
the reason why, well, I feel like it's a little bit more nuanced because
It's not more nuanced.
reasoning
It's
comes
not
from
more
like my
nuanced.
faculties.
We're done, William. You are saying that you don't have the ability to investigate the universe, but you just can't imagine that it wasn't created by a God. And you don't have a way to demonstrate an objective moral standard, but you just don't like the fact or can't think that that's the way it is. Well, nobody cares
but you're
what
always,
you're,
I mean, you say
nobody cares about your faith-based, just the way you feel position. We care about evidence and ways to demonstrate that it's true. If you don't have a mechanism and a method to demonstrate that your position is correct, it is a waste of everyone's time to consider it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, because you always say, that science
No,
is
you're
not
not trying to get to it. No,
it's
you're
something
not
that
trying to.
makes-
William, you're not trying to get to it. I've asked you flat questions, and you have agreed that you don't have a way and you don't have a mechanism. So how is it now you're going to say you're trying to get to the mechanism that you've already admitted you don't have? You're like the Republicans voting to not release the list that doesn't exist.
Well, I feel like I'm not getting a chance to really get what I'm trying to say.
I feel like you're full of shit right now, William, that you're not getting a chance. I've literally asked you questions, got answers. It's not the fault. It's not my fault that I asked the right questions that expose why we don't need to listen to you further. That's your fault.
No, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying, so like earlier in the call when you said that, this is a first time for a lot of people, like I'm trying to articulate what I'm trying to say.
And your first time has ended in failure for you. Go back to the drawing board and come back.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would like to kind of clarify what my reasoning was for at least my first point.
I'm sure you would like to, but as the person who's done this for 20 years, I have other callers on hold, and I think it would be rude to them to waste time for you to reiterate things that we've already dismissed and agreed to dismiss. So go back to the drawing board, come up with a better argument or reason, and then come back, and it'll go much better for you.
Okay. Well, I apologize if I had kind of messed up. That wasn't my intention, but I do appreciate your time, and hopefully I can do a better job at asking my questions and answering yours.
Cool. I just want a way to investigate. I'm always baffled when people think that they've come up with the best explanation and they have no way to justify it. But keep thinking on that. Thanks, William. Well, sorry, Ian. I just kind of dominated all that.
I absolutely fine. It's because the only thing I was laughing because the only thing he said, both of his answers started with, "I can't conceive."
Yeah.
Well, I don't give a shit what you can't, like, how does that affect me that you can't conceive of something? Like that's your answer is that you aren't smart enough to figure it out, or okay, great. I mean,
it may not even be a smart thing, because maybe
whatever.
Yeah. Maybe the thing that William would have benefited from, but I don't have time to get into right now, is us being able to explain in detail and handhold how it is conceivable. And it's pretty simple. I've done an entire lecture called The Superiority of Secular Morality that talks about how you can begin with just 3 simple presuppositions. They're not even necessarily true. They're not objective. They are just preferences. Life is generally preferable to death. Health is generally preferable to sickness. Pleasure is generally preferable to pain. And when those three things serve as a foundation, you can figure out, do we create a better world? Are we enjoying this world? Is the world healthier? We can measure different criteria. And if we find out those foundations don't work as well, then we can change them. The only thing that is required is that we agree we want a better world, and what are we looking at as better? That's the hard part, because the better world that some people want is definitely not the better world that I want. There are people who think a better world is a world with less freedom, more adherence to a God or something like that. Yeah, the alligator Auschwitz. Yeah, and
it's also interesting to me. I mean, you deal with this every week or more. The people who call and don't put up their best argument right up front, like, Well, let me go back and start over again. Well, why didn't you start there? Like, that's interesting to me. Start at the convincing argument, not at the one that is unconvincing. Let's start there.
So let's do this for fun, since I did all of that there. And so we have another caller here that's calling to explain that there's a very good reason to believe in God. I'm going to introduce this caller, we'll get the ball rolling, and then I would like for you just to jump in and I'll just sit back and listen until I can't fucking take it anymore. Because we know that's what's going to happen.
Please do what you do. It's your show, but I'll do what I can do. I might not be good at this. Let's try it.
All right, so Wade's calling in to explain there's a very good reason to believe in God. Wade, where are you calling from, and do you have preferred pronouns at all?
I'm from Louisiana, and it's a he.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Wade. You're here. Ian's here. You're willing to explain to us that there's a very good reason to believe in God. Please do so.
Okay, let me first explain that I'm a highly educated man, and I've been doing this for about 21 years.
Okay.
So unlike a lot of the callers that call in that might not have the experience in the hard sciences,
hey, Wade,
to discuss that with you.
Wade, none of this is fucking relevant. None of this is relevant.
Okay,
Stop talking and listen. If you knew what you were talking about and you actually were an expert in this, you would not need to begin by citing your credentials, because your credentials are irrelevant to whether or not there's good reason to believe in God, correct?
Wrong. Just like your credentials are irrelevant whether you're even worth listening to.
No. The fact is, whether or not there's a good reason to believe in God is independent of whether or not Wade is an educated person. I'll give you the reason
straight up.
No. I'm going to mute you until you learn to fucking listen. Okay. I pointed out that you hung up. Well, I'm sorry, Ian. I gave you the coward. I'll give you another one.
All good. It is. It was very telling though when he starts giving us his credentials, and then when you point out the fact that those are irrelevant, he says no, they're not. Well, you've already lost the argument because you don't understand. That's the basics right there. If you don't understand that your credentials have zero to do with whether or not your position is correct,
it's disappointing. It's disappointing that Wade ran away, because Wade is the first person in a while who I think fell into a trap that I set. Because on a number of occasions, I'll mention I've done this for 20 years and boom, boom, boom. And I've been waiting for someone to say, how is that relevant? And I can say, it's not at all relevant to whether or not I'm right. It is relevant into how good I am, or how good I'm likely to be, at identifying the problems in what you're saying, because I've heard it a bunch of times. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. It has nothing to do with whether I'm right. By the way, I am right, because my position is there isn't yet evidential warrant to believe in a God. And evidently, Wade, in his expertise, thought it was about him. So cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in that Wade, that you ran away. I wanted to hear your irrefutable evidence that is new to the world.
So Sam's calling. I don't know from Sam. Hang on a second. Hey. Sam's calling. I don't know. Hang on, Sam. I don't know from. Wow. Hang on, Sam. It's my fault. I picked you. Sam's calling. Where are you calling from, Sam? And do you have preferred pronouns?
I'm calling from San Diego. I don't know about that pronoun stuff, but I just wanted to ask you
Sam,
a question.
Sam.
Yes.
If I were to be talking to Ian, and I said, Sam just told you that he likes peanut butter, or I said, Sam just told you she likes peanut butter, or I said, Sam just told you they like peanut butter, which of those feels best to you?
He. I'm
cool.
A man.
That's good. So it says you're calling here about questions atheists can't answer. Go for it.
Well, I have a question that I think would be a bit difficult to answer. Well, I've noticed on your show that you often talk about how the Bible and the Christian truth is a load of nonsense. But another thing I did notice is that you often exclaim the phrase, "Oh my God," or Jesus Christ. Well, my question to you is, if the atheist worldview is true that there isn't a God, why don't you exclaim the name of Richard Dawkins instead.
Is that a serious? That's a serious question.
I don't think Sam's serious at all.
Are you being serious?
It's 100. It's 100% serious because why do people say the name of?
So here we go. Ian, go for it.
Well, I'm sure you have a much better answer than I do, Matt. But it's from my perspective, these are modern phrases that are part of our modern colloquialisms. They're part of our language. So people use expressions all the time. It doesn't mean if I go, oh God, or oh shit, or holy cow, it doesn't mean I believe in a holy cow. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like an absurd question. We have concepts, by the way, too. There are concepts of gods and all these sort of things. It doesn't mean I believe they actually exist. I can watch a movie about a leprechaun and don't have to believe in leprechauns. I honestly feel like this question isn't being serious. So you're actually asking why people use modern OMG, like it's just a modern phrase that people use. Like, I don't understand how you think that means that there's some sort of, we're actually, calling just to an actual God. I'm sorry. It seems odd. I can't believe it's a serious question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I do it because, I grew up in a culture where that's how people speak. That's just what people say. When you say, bless you when somebody sneezes, yes, that's a holdover from some religious superstition, but it doesn't mean the person actually believes that you've been taken over spirits. Just like if I'm using an idiom like break a leg, I'm not, if Ian's getting ready to walk out on stage and I'm like, break a leg, I'm not wishing harm upon Ian. And when Ian comes back and talks about how he killed it, he's not actually advocating that he did violence and harmed people. So there are figures of speech. Yeah, there are figures of speech that don't literally mean and don't convey some secret meaning. And I wouldn't refer to Dawkins because I'm not that fond of Dawkins, and because Dawkins isn't relevant to atheism. It's weird that you had to try to find or pick. Why did you go for Dawkins instead of asking people why we don't say, I'm sorry, you were muted that whole time. And clearly you were trying to talk that whole time. Why did you ask why we don't say, oh, Dawkins instead of, oh, Dillahunty?
Well, he thinks he's better than God. I mean, for crying out loud, the guy.
Okay, Sam, I'm better than God. So my question still stands. I'm going to unmute you again. Here we go. We're going to unmute you. Sam, why did you ask why people don't say, oh, Dawkins instead of why they don't say, oh, Dillahunty?
He wrote a book saying that he thinks that God is delusional. He thinks he's better than God.
No, Sam, he didn't write a book where he thinks that God is delusional. He thinks that God is a delusion. But you're not answering my question, and nobody should take you seriously. So say goodbye, Sam. Actually, you don't have to say goodbye. I'll just drop you. Thanks. All right.
The sad thing there is, I honestly thought he was trolling at first, but wow, he wasn't.
Yeah, it's
that's
scary.
So he wasn't
trying.
trolling. That's hard to believe. All right.
Ronnie's calling in from, I think, is it Mississippi? Pronouns are she, her, wants to talk about the atheist moral high ground. So, hey, how are you? Is it Ronnie?
Yes, it is. And I'm calling, first off, hello.
Hi.
It's real nice to talk to you guys, especially Matt. My son says I'm starting to talk like you. And I said it's because he can speak what I'm thinking and what's rattling around in my head very, very well. And so because that language works, I use it. But anyways, I'm calling because my son has been questioning me on the atheist moral high ground. I have a question. I have his question about that, and then my own question about something else. So the way it goes is this: like when you talk to
this call is being recorded.
When Christians are talking, right?
Why does it
They
say this call
have,
is being recorded?
Oh, yeah, because I want my son to hear it, and he's not here right now.
Well, he can tune into
Is
the
that
show.
okay?
I don't
Okay, so
care.
would you prefer I
There's
didn't?
nothing I can do to stop you. It's just weird.
Oh, yeah, I'll stop if you want me to. I just
I
wanted
don't
him to hear
care.
the conversation as it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you didn't
thank
want him
you.
to tune in and watch the actual show.
Well, he's at a boxing gym, so I don't know if he can.
That's all right, Ronnie. He can watch it. This is going to be up on the internet forever, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So what he's concerned about is, like, you know, when Christians say, like, here I am, God, I'm a sinner, right? That in the atheist package, as he calls it, that the position of moral superiority doesn't account for, like, personal acknowledgement that you have, like, a dark side. So he's like, he never hears anybody say anything like, you know, if I could get away with it and I wanted to do something terrible, like cheat on my taxes or, you know, other things, then I would actually do it. And for some reason, that bothers him, and he wonders why he never hears anybody talk like that, that they would actually do something that is immoral or objectionable as an atheist.
So is he saying that Christians admit that they do stuff wrong and they just pass it off as being sinners, and that atheists just don't admit that we want to do bad things? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Precisely.
Well, I don't want to do bad things. I think under the right circumstances.
Well, see, I told him that. I told him that. I'm like, when you are thinking about your ideas and you're conscious about what things mean to yourself, that there are certain things that you literally don't end up wanting to do. But for some reason, it doesn't compute with him. It's like everybody has a dark side. Everybody has a dark side. Like, you have it, but you don't obey it, is the way I explained it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to do bad things. There are certainly circumstances under which I feel the same things as everybody else. Somebody is a complete asshole, runs me off the road, or tries to, or whatever else. I sometimes I want to go fucking fried green tomatoes and be like, I'm older and I have better insurance. Fuck it, I'm ramming your car. I'm never going to do that. But those kind of intrusive thoughts pop up. The difference is, what keeps me from doing that is not, ooh, that would really make God mad. It is, oh, that's just bad. And it would be worse for me, worse for them, worse for the entire world. And what it is it's not, I want to do this. It is, I am so frustrated with the situation. I have nothing I can do. There's nothing, it's all futile. I have no hope of fixing this. I can yell and scream into the void. Oh, I wish I could just punch him in the face, except that I'm a nonviolent person who wouldn't punch them in the face. And so the fact that you think about things doesn't mean that it's not. Just because you have thoughts in moments of frustration or panic or fear or dread that are not ideal, that's not the measure of your character. The measure of your character is what you do in those situations. And, you know, if I could get away with it, I'd do this. Well, the thing is, the more you learn about how our actions have consequences, the more you realize that scenario is a lie. It's like, you know, if I knew I could get away with it, I would rob a bank and then I would never have to worry about anything. Except that if you think about the consequences of those actions, oh, no, I'm saying if I knew I could get away with it. Well, you don't know that you would get away with it. But even if you did, even if you were given permission or a get out of jail free card, or if the Supreme Court decides that you are a God king on earth, like they've done for our current president, and you can do whatever you want, including killing people. The thing that keeps you from doing it is the important part. So when I'm sitting there and I'm in that state of frustration, would I rob a bank if I could get away with it? No. because I wouldn't get away with that. I might not go to jail. I might not pay immediate consequences. But if I rob that bank, somebody else has to pay. There's no such thing as a purely victimless crime. There are consequences. If you lie on your insurance thing, you commit insurance fraud in order to get a new car, what that does is it raises rates for everybody else. And you should think globally, act locally. And when you're trying to decide what to do, you should ask yourself, what would the world be like if everybody took the action that I was going to take under this circumstance? Would it be better, the worse, or the same? And if everybody lied to get a new car, none of us would be able to afford cars or insurance or anything. And so there's always going to be a consequence. Ian?
This is exactly what I was saying earlier about that's my greater good thing. First off, everybody does bad things, by the way. It's the level of bad. I'm sure we've all lied. We've all done something that we probably aren't proud of. Every single person has done bad things. I think the fact that a lot of religions excuse it by going, well, I can go to confession, or I can say this prayer, or I can do this thing, and I can just admit that I'm a sinner and I'm all good, and therefore, woo, I'm absolved. That doesn't like Matt's saying, that's good for you. That's a selfish reason. Okay, cool. So I just robbed a bank and I prayed to God and I got away with it, and I prayed to God and God forgave me. Well, that doesn't fix the people who lost all their money. And for me, it's always goes back to that. What is the greater good? Like, yeah, it's great for me, but how many people am I hurting in that process? There's a saying. You said your son's at a boxing gym. I own an MMA gym, and I train and work with fighters a lot. And you hear these people. I hear these people all the time say these dumb phrases that drive me nuts. And one of them is, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And I go, no, you're cheating. Like I wouldn't cheat just because I can't get away with it. I don't cheat because it's unfair to the other competitors. It could be dangerous. There's various reasons that I don't cheat. And it's not just because I'm afraid of getting caught. And from a moral standpoint, I feel, and again, that's because it's my belief. Of course, I believe it's more moral or more ethical, but I feel that's a more moral, ethical position than, well, I don't cheat because God is going to punish me, or I'm going to cheat and then ask for forgiveness. No, I'm not going to cheat, even if I can get away with it, because I'm harming other people. It's not good for society. It's not good for the greater good. And if I do want to look at it from a selfish standpoint, at some point, I'm okaying people to cheat against me or to harm me or to do these things to me. So I feel like when people are, oh, atheists, you guys don't have this moral code, or you don't have this. Of course we do. And of course we think about doing bad things. There's multiple times, I'm sure, where someone's like, man, I could do that right now. Or man, I could whatever, do X, Y bad thing. And you either do it and you feel bad about it, or you don't feel bad about it, or you don't do it because you go, that's going to hurt somebody. That's going to mess something up in the future. And the fact is that we can't just excuse it with some God is excusing it for us.
Yeah, I'm a magician, and I can't do it as well as I used to, but I could sit down at a card table with a deck of cards and apparently fairly shuffle them, allow somebody to cut, and then deal out pretty much whatever hand I want under certain circumstances. And I have lots of friends who can do similar. I could cheat in poker games if I wanted to, and have a very low risk of getting caught, because you don't have to cheat nearly as much as you think you do it to win. I don't do that because it is exactly what Ian was saying. I'm basically opening the door to people do that to me.
Yeah. That was one of the things that kind of stopped me from continuing with some of the Christian stuff, is because it seems like, when a person finally gets sorry for what they did, it's just a matter of saying, oh, I'm sorry, and please forgive me, and then everything is right in the world, and everything is really not, but we just keep going forward pretending like it is. And it just makes a terrible mess underneath in the, at that time, in the church, in the congregation, in the community, because somebody has done something so awful, but yet all they have to do is say, I'm a sinner, and, I accept God's forgiveness, and all the regular stuff, and then they just move forward. And it doesn't seem to be a lot of internal discourse about the ramifications of behaviors, which is something that I participated in since before I even knew I was doing it. Like, how does somebody else suffer from what I did? And it changed a lot of how I dealt with some of those Christian type ideas.
Yep. You had a second thing, Ronnie?
And thank you. I think that you both elaborated on that very, very precisely. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Did I hear you right earlier? Or was I imagining? Did you have a second question?
I do. I wanted to propose an idea because I was reading randomly the book of Ezekiel, right? And in Ezekiel is having this experience, right, where God is like telling him to look over, I guess, Judea or Israel, what have you, and look at all the ways that he's jealous, right? So somebody is crying for Tammuz, and that makes him jealous. Somebody is looking at the sun, that makes him jealous. And, people are doing all these things. There's drawings on the wall and all these things, and just look at what they're doing to make me jealous, right? And so as a result of this, Ezekiel has some guy go around and mark the people who are, physically mark them, who are at the moment crying about the state of Israel or the state of Judea. So they go around and mark all these people, and then the next instruction that comes from the Lord is to slaughter all the people who are not marked. So they just go through slaughtering everybody from the old and infirm to the women, the children, men, everybody's got to go. But while this is happening, all of a sudden he's going, oh God, are you going to kill everybody, right? So it occurred to me as I'm reading this passage, that I think, if not all, a few of what we call as the prophets may have been suffering from religious delusion.
Interesting.
And it's been passed off as the word from God. And I'm wondering how you see that.
I don't have any way to test it.
Yeah, I have no way to test it either, but some things that you think about inside your head. Huh?
Yeah, it's worth it to go. The most we can do is say, I don't know how to tell the difference between, let's say, the author of the book of Revelation being serious, clear-headed, and accurate, or delusional, incoherent, and a nut job. I don't have any way to tell the difference. And that's not me saying that's what it is. It's saying I don't have any way to tell the difference. And why hasn't God come down? I'm sorry, the background noise is too much, Ronnie, but we're going to have to let you go. But why hasn't God solved this problem?
I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
If the book reads like the ravings of a lunatic, then it's up to God, if any of this has anything to do with God, to come in and say, no, here's why you're wrong. And so it's not up to us to try and prove that somebody was on mushrooms or high or delusional or suffering from some, mental issue. We have no way to test it. We have no way to investigate it. It's up to them to show that the claims are actually real and true. And that's it. What the burden of proof where it is, and it all falls apart.
I agree. It's just that I'm just not convinced that anyone has actually spoken to a God.
Yep, me neither. And they need to prove that.
I mean, to me, those stories sound like allegories, right? That doesn't sound like that's a real account of something that happened. It sounds like somebody told a fun story. I mean, or a not so fun story, but they told it. I mean, so whoever wrote that, I don't think is giving an account of something that really happened anyway. I think they're just making up a story that you're supposed to glean some sort of message out of, and it's not meant to be a literal story. I mean, but who am I? I don't know.
Well, actually, I actually thought that as well, but I'm married to my husband, who is, if I describe the kind of fundamentalist Christians we have been, you might be surprised, but either way, he believes all of that stuff is true, and that he can't say that that is ridiculous because it might in some way be offensive to God, and he doesn't want to do that. And I understand that.
What if he's offending?
Why can't we just say that this doesn't make sense?
What if he's What if there's a real God and he's offending that God by not calling out the God that he's afraid to offend?
Good question.
I think there's a Simpsons joke in there. Saying I didn't watch a lot of Simpsons, but I think Homer or somebody said something like, "What if we're worshiping the wrong God, and every time we go to church, we're pissing the real God off," or something like that? I don't know.
That's an incredible question.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Ronnie, I got to let you go, but I appreciate it. Thanks so much for calling in and giving us stuff to think about.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. All right, we've got 3 more calls to get to, and then we're going to start reading off some super chats. All the super chats over $10. We will go through as we rattle through stuff. But I've got 3 callers here, and this one I think's probably going to be relatively quick. M is calling from Kentucky. Pronouns are she, her. M, you had a question.
Yeah, hi Matt. I'm so excited to be on. I've watched you for forever, and I know you hate these accolades, but still. Awesome. So yeah, I was just curious if, since he was actually the first person that the band was the first person that I heard that really changed my mind on some things, and then you were kind of my second main one. So I was just curious if you would ever have him on Greg Graffin on the show, or if you've looked into it, or if you wanted to.
I will be completely honest. While I have heard of Bad Religion and I have heard of Greg, I am unfamiliar with any of the music or any of the thoughts. Don't follow them. I had to look him up. It's just, so the answer to your question is no, but it's not like I have some objection. Ian, do you know Greg? Are you familiar with Bad Religion?
Oh, yes. Well, I am a punk rock kid through and through. Grew up that way.
I thought so. Yes, that's actually what reminded me of you.
Yep. I suspected.
It's funny. Greg is an incredibly smart guy, and he would be an incredible guest. By the way, he's a professor. I don't even know where he teaches now. Cornell at one point. Like he's amazing. Yeah, he would be. He's fantastic. And a lot of people. It's funny. A lot of people I know. When I was younger, growing up in the 80s or whatever, that were religious, that started to not be religious, would come to me and go, oh man, I'm starting to see what you're talking about, because I've been atheist my whole life, but my friends that were kind of borderline, that were also in the kind of the punk scene, would often get some information from lyrics, and Greg's lyrics are incredibly smart and often scientific. And people would read the lyrics. From back in the old days, you get a tape and you could read the lyrics and you play. And people were like, "What does this mean?" And look up what it means. And he changed a lot of people in my generation and my friends to at least start thinking more critically. And a lot of them turning to atheists. Quick story. This is kind of cool. This is how cool of a guy he is. My first comedy special, I needed credit music. And he has a song called God Song. And I asked if I could use the song for the end credits. And he said yes. And he gave me the song, gave me the rights. He wrote it. And he said, you can have for free. I'm not going to charge you. It's your song. He goes, but our catalog got bought by XYZ big conglomerate. Mm-hmm. And you need to get the sync rights from them. I'm giving you the rights to the song and the mechanical rights and whatever, but I can't control the sync rights because they own the recording. And he sent them a note and saying, I'm giving Ian this and blah, 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 blah. Please work out a deal with him. And big conglomerate that owns the music would not give me any sort of deal. And I ended up not getting to use it on my comedy special because I couldn't afford it. It cost the rights to the song would have cost more than the comedy special cost to produce. And even though the owner of the rights of the song gave it to me as a favor. That's how good. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. And he's very smart. And yeah, you would be an awesome guest to have if you can swing it. I could try to get a hold of him if you ever wanted to, Matt, 'cause you would probably have an incredible conversation with him.
I think it'd be fun. It's like I don't have any. It's not like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with him. I know loosely who he is and Bad Religion, but I couldn't hum a single bar of one of the songs, and that's no fault of his. That's me. I mean, this is just.
He can be verbose for sure. I think a lot of. Sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
No, you're fine. Well, do you know Greg?
Me? No.
Yeah.
I just thought that you would.
For all I know, you're. Yeah, who knows? All right. We're going to move on and take care of some.
He changed my. Sorry.
No. I'm going to move on and try to get some other callers. I will look into this. And like, if you happen to know if there's like a lecture or well, I guess a song. I'm not as keen on songs. I mean, I love songs and everything, but it's like I don't know that I get that much out. I don't know. Maybe. So we were listening to Rush Roll the Bones on Monday while we were cleaning the rat racks, and it's funny because earlier tonight Ian said, "Why are we here?" And it immediately reminded me that I listened to Roll the Bones just the other day, and the answer is because we're here. That's Neil Peart's lyric, and there's so much really good stuff in there, despite the fact that he was like an Ayn Rand objectivist fan and everything. But I get a lot of stuff out of music, and I love the fact that either Bad Religion or XTC's Dear God, or all these sorts of songs can bring people into stuff. But to the extent that we would get somebody on the show to be a guest, I'd be honored. But I'd love to see, like, is there a talk that he's given somewhere out there, or some lecture, some podcast he's done taking questions on this stuff to show that not only can he write great music, but I'm not familiar enough. We should fix that.
Okay, all right. Thanks for keeping it in mind. It was awesome talking to you guys.
Thanks, Em.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. All right. Let's see. This says it's from Human, which sounds like a Ferengi trying to explain what I am. And I'm not trying to make fun of your name at all. That's just the first thing that pops into my head. So Human is calling him with two questions, one about morality and stuff like that. So Human, if I'm pronouncing that right, great. And if I'm not, please correct me. Welcome to the show. You're on with Ian and Matt.
Hi, Matt. Yeah, no worries. My name is Human, and I always make fun of my own name as well. It's like my cat tries to call me.
It's awesome because on Deep Space Nine, when they introduced the Ferengis, they would always kind of like insult with it that this race would refer to humans as human. Like it was nasty for them to say. So I think it's extra cool. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a Persian name. The Human means literally a good person.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a bit anxious. I'm introverted, and it's hard to talk to people. But I have two questions, as I wrote in my topic part. Sorry, not my main. The first one is that I always differentiate between morality and rightfulness. And what I mean by that is I consider killing immoral in general. But if someone were to murder, for example, Hitler, I would consider that a right action. Does that make sense?
Yes. You could be wrong, but it definitely makes sense. What you're talking about is situational ethics, and that whether or not something is right in one circumstance is independent from whether it's right in another circumstance.
And because I've seen a debate of yours, I think it was with Destiny, and you talked about two concepts: moral virtue and moral obligation. And I try to kind of match this idea of mine to what you said back then, and I cannot match them in any way.
Well, I can explain the concepts to you. I don't know that they tie into, they're not tied to necessarily, they're not, I guess, strongly tied to situational ethics, but something is a moral obligation if one's failure to do it results in a negative moral evaluation. So, for example, it is a moral virtue, or sorry, it's a moral duty to not kill people. Something is a moral virtue if doing it is considered good and beneficial, but not immoral to not do it. Like donating to cancer research. If you donate to cancer research, you are doing something that is morally virtuous. But if you fail to donate to cancer research, you are not actually immoral. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And
that's all I was talking about.
Yeah, and the other, I have one more question. I have three questions actually, but the box had a limit on the number of characters that I could write in. But I'm from Iran, and this is a theocratic state, and talking about being an atheist is really hard. Like one time at university, I tried to talk to one of my professors about Darwin and evolution, and the dean of the college was walking from in front of the door, and the professor got scared just to talk about evolution. And it feels a bit lonely to not be able to argue about this stuff. How would you recommend to start a community?
I wouldn't. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying I'm not in any position to recommend that you do or how to do it. I don't know how to do it there. I'm not sure how wise it is to do it there. I hope that someone can, and that there is sufficient regime change is probably the wrong word, but maybe it is. Who cares? I hope that there's a sufficient change in the way things are run there, that it's no longer something to be terrified of. But I don't know. Ian, what would you tell him on?
I mean, how dangerous? I mean, is it dangerous to be an atheist over there? I mean, would you get in actual legal trouble, or
if you start publicly advocating for anything other than Islam, you could be punished by death.
Yeah, I'd rather you stay alive.
Yeah,
me too. And can I ask my third question? Is that okay?
Sure, because who knows? You might not live to ask it again.
A while ago, I was reading about something called the self-referential problem in mathematics. And I started thinking about it as in a way to use it in real life. Like, if you cannot use the tools inside a system to completely analyze the system and answer all the questions that system creates, maybe we can never understand the final question about our reality. And the feeling this thought gave me was so devastating, I started crying. How do you feel? How do you cope with not being able to know everything?
Yeah.
Not just not knowing, but the idea of never being able to know. And not just you. By you, I mean humanity. We might never be able to answer all the questions we have. Isn't that a bit terrifying?
Yeah, it's, I think, the thing that drives us to make up shit.
But I think also, though, it's the thing that drives us to learn more. I mean, that's the thing, is for me, is that's what makes me read books. That's what makes me, talk to people and ask questions, and and watch shows like watch shows like what Matt does and watch documentaries and constantly looking to find the best answer. And, you can have the best answer that you have and know that it can change. I mean, I think it's okay to be like, this is probably, with what we know, our best answer for something. And it might change, as it has in my life. There's been lots of things in science that have changed. But at the time, this was the best model or the best understanding of whatever it was I was researching. And I was okay to have that and then know that it's going to change or that it could possibly change. And I was excited to learn how that was going to change and hear the new evidence and hear the new theories that are coming out and read about them and weigh them and go, is this now more probable than this? And for me, that's the whole journey. That's the fun is the discovery and trying to find the new information and trying to read about the new information and discover the new information. And I'm fine not knowing, just as long as I, have an idea of where it's going.
I'm obsessed with learning stuff. And so but when I recognize that there are things that I can't understand. I am not the most brilliant person on the planet, despite what I clearly think of myself. But I think that if there are smart people who understand something I don't, either they can explain it to me in some way that I can understand, or I just have to accept, as frustrating it is, I'm not going to grasp it. That I find more frustrating than the things that nobody knows. Like, I'm not frustrated that I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism. I'm not frustrated that I don't have a solution to the problem of induction. Pick any one of these things as a limitation. It is an irritant that we're not going to be able to know or even verify how we could know or anything like that. But at least it's shared. And the only way that I derive comfort in that uncertainty and in that frustrated state of not knowing is that I take great pleasure in figuratively smacking around the smug pricks who think they've solved those problems when they haven't. When they call in to be like, I know what created the universe, and it's God. No, you fucking don't. You have the same limit, unless you can show what your mechanism is, you have the same limitations the rest of us do. And maybe some being created the universe. Maybe some thing that we don't know, can't explain, and can't investigate right now made the universe. Maybe nothing made the universe. Maybe everything that is the universe always existed in some state, and all we're seeing is a change. We don't have the ability to actually know the answer to that. And so when people pretend to know, my joy at exposing the absolute bullshit of pretenders to knowledge almost makes up for the fact that I also have to recognize I don't know the answer either. And getting comfortable saying I don't know is not easy. But if you look at it in terms of, hey, not only do I not know, there's a bunch of people out there who are worse off than I am because they've decided that they have the right answer, and that will forever stop them from having any chance of finding the actual right answer, even if they're correct. Because if they're correct, it's just coincidence that they're correct.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it irritates me when I talk to like my religious friends who are mostly Islamic, and then I ask them, "How are you sure?" They say, "Because God said so." And I ask them, "How do you know that God said it?" And they say, "Because it's in the Quran." And I ask them, "How do you know God wrote Quran?" It's just a cyclical bullshit that always infuriates me. And like I formed this premise. I don't know how to call it, what to call it in English, but I just set out 3 premises in front of them. That you say God is perfect. Number 1, you said God is complete. God is perfect. You say Quran is written by God, so Quran is supposed to be perfect. And if I find even one mistake in this book, so everything you believe in should be questioned. And there is one fact that we can absolutely look at and say it's not a form of interpretation or something like that. And there are more than two. In Quran there is a verse that said all creatures were created of two genders, male and female. And I'm like, there are many species that have only one gender, and one sex. I'm sorry, not gender. And when this one mistake exists, when one mistake exists, everything should be questioned. Why are you not doing that?
There are lizards. Thank you for delving into my secondary area of focus. There are lizards, many of them, that have only one sex. They are all 100% female. They reproduce asexually. The curious thing is that some of them, like some of the butterfly agamas and things like that, I think it's butterfly agamas, but in any case, they actually emulate sex. The females will bump uglies, and in order to get pregnant, in order to stimulate that. So somewhere, despite the fact that sex, the sort of, bimodal sex that we're used to with sperm and egg and things like that, somewhere that either existed in their heritage and was lost, but there are others where there's no reason to think that ever existed. And depending on how and where you want to draw the lines, I don't think whoever wrote the Quran had any understanding of bacteria and viruses and other things that may be more complicated. But even amongst humans, chromosomes aren't binary, although they are normatively bimodal. The same thing with gamete production, all these things. Every single way you try to classify sex or gender, it's a big fucking mess. And it's the oversimplification. I also would say that I think there's really good reason to believe the moon was not split in half.
Yeah, if it was, there would be other historical evidences on other books from other countries, not just in the Islamic references. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I don't know what the evidence would be. Yeah, because I mean, God could split the moon in half and then put it back together and make it look like nothing ever happened. But you can't split the moon in half to where people can observe it, and only people in this one little community are there, unless this was a miracle done just for them and everybody else didn't notice, like the flood, because the Egyptians didn't notice this massive worldwide flood. So that's why the people are saying, oh, it's just a local flood. Well, that's not that impressive. How do you wipe out all the sin in the world with a local flood? Was all the sin localized to that area? But anyway, Human, I greatly appreciate the call. Thanks so much. I wish you the best. I would reach out to secular organizations worldwide that deal with your area in Iran and others, and see if you can find their advice on how best to proceed at possibly setting up a community or finding others to interact with, because loneliness can be a killer. And when you are lonely and isolated and oppressed by the actual government, the caliphate, for whoever's running things, that's something that I don't yet have to deal with in America, but I think we're working our damnedest to make sure that the fundamentalist Christian nationalist Project 2025 fascists take away as many of my rights as you've had taken away from yours.
Yeah, one thing that just really worries me is it's like the whole world is shifting toward religion again. I don't know why. Yes. And it's really worrying. I'm scared.
Yes, we are scared as well. Maybe we'll find ourselves living in whatever the last bastion of sanity is somewhere on the planet, and we can have fun. But I doubt it. Anyway,
thank you for.
I got to let you go.
Oh, this was really relieving, and I appreciate you talking to me. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Leon.
Thank you, Human. And if it's possible, if you have internet access, I'd recommend reaching out to recoveringfromreligion.org. They may be able to point you to better resources than I can.
I will definitely check that. Thank you for recommending it.
Thanks so much. Ian, we have one more call tonight.
Sweet.
This is short and sweet. Let's see what we got here. I apologize if I mispronounced the name. Is it Sohel Bajat?
Yes, Sohel Bajat.
Sohel Bajat. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you again. This is my second call.
Awesome. What can we do for you today?
Yeah, I just want to say that I was myself a believer, a religious person, and now I am an atheist. And I like to tell other people that since I became an atheist, my whole notion of life changed. I feel more peaceful in my life. I feel more rational. And I feel that all people will do better if they become like either atheist or agnostic, because I see religion as a very bad thing. Like when people start believing in that the guy who is in the sky and demons and jinnies and satans, I see that as a dangerous thing. Yeah. So go ahead.
No. I'm glad that you found peace and that you wanted to share that, you weren't able to find peace until you became an atheist. I'm reluctant to say that atheism or agnosticism is something that anybody and everybody can easily be a part of and find peace, only because I know I've heard from people, very few, I've heard from people who really, really wish that after escaping a religion, that the religion thing had been true. Basically, there's so much religious trauma and damage done that they still haven't found peace. So obviously we can't guarantee peace. We don't have a mechanism for peace. And we view religion as, or anything else that is advocating for beliefs that can't demonstrate their truth as true. We find all those to be problematic. So I'm glad you found peace, Sohel. Ian?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so can I ask where you live?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, Sohel, where do you live?
Oh, I live in San Diego, California.
Okay.
Yeah, and
it didn't say, so I just want to make. I'm like, because depending on where you live, it makes it a lot easier to be an atheist and to be out, if you will. California is not too bad, but yeah, some places are far worse, like Iran or Texas. So,
or even Iraq. Like I have a friend, for example, in Iraq who is an atheist. He's a YouTuber. He uses a mask. He makes videos without showing his complete face, and that really saddens me, because I feel like, what kind of God is afraid of any hint that, our existence itself, the existence of the atheist itself, is an evidence that God doesn't exist, or either God doesn't care. That's always my argument with believers. I tell them, if there is a God, he either doesn't have the power to tell us that he exists, or to punish us, or he doesn't care at all whether you worship him or not. So it's really saddens me to see people believe in this stupid thing, and we are in 2025. Yes.
Yeah, I feel the frustration. I find it, well, it's very telling what we can share, what frustrations we can share despite coming from different backgrounds. I wake up every day in a world that no longer makes sense, a world that used to make sense, that I was pretty convinced made sense, but it doesn't. And that is really irritating. I don't even know what to do with that information.
I mean, I remember the day, November 2024, for me to see Trump winning again after all he's done, what he has done. I felt like the day when I witnessed the day, like when my uncle was killed in a tribal war with the government. That was the saddest day in my life. I was that. I mean, it was that shock that made me think, okay, this is the best country in the world, and yet most Americans chose to vote for a rapist, a liar, someone who is stupid and evil, like by all accounts. But then I told myself that since Christians, for example, see King David, the criminal, as someone who is blessed by God, that's what made me make sense of it. So if they think that King David, please go ahead.
That's not what they think. This is bigotry and ignorance and stupidity. They're not rationalizing. I mean, it's a tiny portion of the population that are like, Trump is God's chosen. And among those who think that Trump is God chosen, these are the people who don't know the first fucking thing about Christianity other than they've been in church their whole life and listen to whatever brother Billy Bob tells them. So it's difficult to saddle the election with Christians acting or behaving in accordance with their beliefs. I wouldn't go that far. So we've got to move on because I'm running out of time. I apologize, but I am definitely glad that you're someone who's found peace, and I'm hoping that other people will as well.
Thank you, and thank you thank to Ian too. So everyone, I appreciate the show, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. All right, so we're going to move on to the super chat portion of the show, and part of the reason we're going to move on is because the lovely and talented Arden Hart is leaving me tomorrow. Not forever, I hope. Just for a long weekend, and because of that, I don't want to drag the show on too long. I'd love for her to be able to get some rest and feel comfortable in preparing for all that. So we're going to read super chats now. Right now, there's not a ton of them. Some of you are getting ready to put your super chats in. Cool. We're going to read all the super chats over $10. If you'd like to set as a personal goal so many super chats that Arden doesn't get to go to sleep till midnight, I'm actually okay with that. But we'll take what we get and be appreciative of her work. You want to start by reading these? We'll alternate.
Yeah, so it's $9.99, $10 from @Greg Markowski 6747. I've been learning some Peg Leg Sam tunes on my harmonica. Figure if things get bad enough, I can ride the rails and busk for spare change.
Yeah. I don't know how easy it is to ride the rails anymore. This isn't, I don't know if you can still hop a train the way you did once upon a time, but.
I wonder too, do they still have, I remember the old days, I have a grandfather who rode the rails way back in the day. And he would tell us the stories of the train bulls that would, were there purposely there were guys that were like bouncers that were there to pull people that were riding the trains. I wonder if they still have those.
I don't know. I don't know if you have any side open doors that aren't locked on trains at all anymore. I don't know. I think Greg has an idea that's older than both of us put together. But $10 from @TheAtheistMechanic. We are desensitized to the absurdity of what America's become, and it's pretty sad. We used to be better than what this country has become, all thanks to the Fanta-fascist. I think the Fanta-fascist didn't actually cause any of this. I think he's the consequence of this. I think we got the world that we lazily built toward. We think we're smart, and we are, but we think we're smarter than we are. We think we're safer than we are. We think we know more and understand more than we are. We think we can't be fooled, and that makes us the easiest people to fool. We think we know better than the experts. We think we know better than the science. We think there's wisdom in ancient writings. We think there are gods and demons and monsters and angels, saints and sinners, and all of these concepts lead us to a really, we are God's special chosen people. We can't possibly destroy the planet. We don't have to worry about climate change. This is in Limbaugh's book. This is shit we were talking about back when I was a ditto head. Rush was saying, there's no way we can destroy the planet because God will come back before then. So we don't have to worry about shit like climate change. This is the message that people were taught. And we built a world where we didn't teach people how to think critically, how to value reliability, whether an idea is testable, falsifiable, replicatable, whether or not the data is coming from a biased source. And because of that, we get this. You don't have to blame any of this on Trump. This is 100% the people who elected him. And to some smaller percent, those of us who didn't, for not working harder in anticipation of something I don't think we could realistically expect. But evidently we should have. Should have suspected it. Whoops.
And $10 again from the atheist mechanic. I trust my government about as much as I'd trust a fart after downing a whole bottle of magnesium citrate. Okay.
Yeah. Or, me at the beginning of the week.
But here's, can I just say real quick, my problem with that, that's one of those things we were kind of talking about earlier about not to belittle anything you just said, atheist mechanic, but I have a problem when people say, I trust my government, I don't trust my government, because I get that a lot from the conspiracy theorists. Oh, so you trust your government? Well, I don't trust anything just to trust it. I also don't necessarily distrust because I don't trust. It's a weird thing that happens now where people say that, oh, you trust that? And I go, well, I don't distrust that. And maybe I trust part of that. You trust doctors? Most doctors in their field, yes, I trust. It doesn't mean but if I say no, that doesn't mean I distrust doctors. Right. And this idea that we don't trust the government. There's lots of stuff about that I would not trust anybody but the government. I wouldn't trust the local, robber baron water guy to not put lead in my water if there were no regulations from the government. So in that case, I trust the government more than I trust the private industry. So I just, I feel you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm trusting the data. Sometimes the data comes from sources that I trust on a number of subjects, and sometimes the data is coming from a source that I probably wouldn't trust on a number of subjects. But yeah, I go see a doctor because going to see the shaman down the street has reliably demonstrated that it's not in the best interest of anybody's health. It's weird when somebody's like, oh, you trust the government? Okay. I don't know whether the number of blades on the grass on the planet is even or odd. I know it has to be one of those two. And so when I tell you I'm not convinced that the number is even, that doesn't mean I'm convinced it's odd. I might be, I might not be. As it turns out, I'm not convinced of either. I'm convinced of methods that demonstrate reliability that might get us to some sort of answer on something. That's it.
But that's what I find happens a lot, not to drag this on, but we were talking about earlier. That's what I find happens a lot with my non-critical thinking friends. They'll ask me, do you trust, honest question, do you trust the government? And I say, if I do say, well, no, they immediately go, aha, I distrust the government too.
Yeah.
And there's a confirmation bias that me, the guy that they asked the question because they wanted to hear my opinion, agrees with them that they distrust the government. So I have to go on this whole elaborate explanation of, well, this is what that I don't necessarily distrust them, but they just want to hear, Yes or no? Do you trust the government or no? No. Cool. You then distrust them. And that has led us down a lot of crazy rabbit holes in the last few years, especially after COVID.
Yeah. And the other thing is, first of all, the government isn't one thing. Like, we are the government. AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene are both the government. They're not the same thing. They're not equally reliable. They're not equally sensible. They are not equally anything of relevance to any of that. And it's like, if the government is dispensing information, and they're dispensing it in the form of white paint, and every now and then some bad bit of information gets in there as a bit of black paint, eventually the bucket turns gray. You get a mix. And so you're like, which parts of that do you trust? Oh, I trust the parts that aren't black, but you've mixed them, so I can't tell that anymore. When each new drop comes in, assessing that drop as to whether or not it's black, white, or gray, or something else, that's what I do. Once you mix it all up in one bucket, oh, it's all the government. Okay, which government? Whose government? The left wing, the right wing, the independents? Oh, well, they're all the same. No, they're not. And the second you say they're all the same, you have disqualified yourself from any serious conversation. Are they all human beings? Yes. Do they all suffer from biases? Yes. Are they all potentially prone to doing things that are wrong for the wrong reasons? Yes. Are most all of them probably subject to being bought by somebody? Yes. Yeah. Are there active conspiracies going on? Yes. That doesn't mean that any particular conspiracy you believe, though, is in fact going on.
Yeah. Indeed.
Just because somebody has an orgasm when they have sex doesn't mean your partner did.
Right. Probably not.
$10 from Joshua. I got $10 from Joshua Everett 9887. By the rationality of Dillahunty, that was a rough call. Fair.
$10 from Queen Janelle. I would like to propose Matt's unholy beard as a new exclamatory phrase.
I prefer that. You know, we were talking about oh my stars and oh my stars and garters, and Arden was like, why are you talking about your garters? And I was like, maybe they're talking about garter snakes. Yeah, Dillahunty doesn't flow off the tongue for most, you know, like, fuck that Dillahunty dude, that flows. But like, oh, Dillahunty, that doesn't, don't do that. But Matt's all in holy beard, I could get down with that.
It's funny, Dillahunty's a good one. I used to work with this guy, his last name was McCorkle, and I used to joke that he has the perfect name for our boss to stand up and go, McCorkle! Like, it just, Dillahunty! That sounds like a good name I could yell across a crowded office. Dillahunty in my office now. Yeah, I in here in LA, there's I don't know if they're everywhere. I know it's an LA thing. You know those lawyers that like there's the guy who what's his name, he'll get Larry Parker will get you whatever $1 million. I don't know if you guys have those over, but those lawyers. There's a guy here whose billboards are all over LA, and his name is Sweet James. And so there's billboards everywhere, and it's like, Sweet James, have a personal injury, call Sweet James. So that's literally the one I always go, Sweet James.
My favorite of the billboards in the Austin area, there's a guy, I think his name is Comey, K-O-M. Anyway, he looks like fucking Rob Zombie, and or only younger now. All right. $10 from Hoobens. Thank you, Matt, and the rest of these line team for all you do. Any suggestions for resources for kids getting into philosophy, critical thinking, that sort of thing? I'm asking for my 15-year-old. I'm the wrong person to ask because I tend to treat kids as if they're adults. And so I would just say, go read Hume, and start with a Wikipedia article on validity and soundness and see where that takes you. Explore, click the links explore other stuff. But I don't have kids. Ian does, though.
I have a 20-year-old. And it's so funny. Just yesterday, I was in her room. Had to grab something from for it, and I'm looking at her bookshelf, and I said, wait a second, these are all my books. She had all of like a whole bunch of my books that I've had for years or whatever, that picked up friends that are authors, and she had them all in her bookshelf. And I'm like, oh, when did she transfer this over here? But I remember when she's 20 now, when she was about 15, 16, she started reading my Bertrand Russell's skeptical essays.
Yep.
And the one that I give to everybody that I've gifted to 1 million people, and it's 30 years old now or whatever, everybody I know that I need to give to, I gift everybody The Demon Haunted World. And I think it's just such a great, because Carl Sagan's just so fantastic, just love the way he writes and whatever. And it just kind of teach it without necessarily teaching you anything. Like, I don't think anything Carl Sagan ever did was preachy or this is how it's done. But The Demon Haunted World is just, it's so debunking without going after anything. It's just like, this is kind of how things are. And it's everybody I've given that book to is like, wow, this opened my eyes to so many things that I didn't even realize I had biases toward. And so I would say give everybody The Demon Haunted World for sure as number one.
I love Demon Haunted World. When it comes to Sagan, I prefer the compilation that Anne put together, The Varieties of Scientific Experience, but they're both great. But my number one book recommendation all the time is Innumeracy by John Allen Paulos. It has nothing to do with religion, although he wrote a book, I think it was called Irreligion or Irreligious, as sort of a follow-up. But Innumeracy is about math and how bad we are at it. It's about statistics and how they're used against us and how we don't see it. It is about our quantitative intuitions and how subject to manipulation they are and how broken they can be and how you can go about potentially fixing them. No bullshit. If somebody said, what's the most important book somebody could read to get a better foundation to start exploring the universe? Innumeracy is my number one.
You know, Matt, but really quick, because of that, I have to read that, by the way. That sounds amazing. Like I said earlier, I love math. I was always a math nerd, whatever. One thing that I never understood when I was younger, everybody always hated geometry. And proofs were the big one. Oh, proofs. And I thought proofs were the coolest thing in the world because I'm like, this is just logic. I just I have a set of rules. If this angle is congruous with this angle, then these lines are parallel. And I can, it may take me 20 steps to get down to the lines are parallel or whatever it was I was trying to come across. And I loved it because it was like, I treated it like I was Sherlock Holmes and I was trying to decipher whether or not they were. And when I made it fun, which it was always fun to me, but I just loved it. And I had a few people that I was like, no, you got to think of it like this. And all of a sudden, geometry is amazing. And I always tell people that when it comes to math, tell your kids how amazing geometry is and proofs are so cool. You're a detective and you get to figure out the answer and once you take away that, oh, it's math and it's numbers and you're discovering something fun, I find that math gets really, really interesting. And math is almost pure. So much of it is pure logic. You have to really, especially if it's, analytical geometry or things like that. So I don't know. I push your kid toward that sort of math where they have to critically think, and solve things, I don't know.
So this is one of my all-time favorite YouTube channels. He's got 3.2 million subscribers. His name's Presh Talwalkar. The channel is Mind Your Decisions. It is math puzzles and things like that explained. And when I say I'm an obsessive learner, that's what I'm talking about. I absolutely, like Arden will tell you, if we're sitting around just watching stuff on YouTube, the number of times I've got some kind of math puzzle thing going on, or logic puzzles like that going on. It's a lot, but all right. Let's get through some more supers.
$10 from I don't know if that's how to pronounce that. Jessica. Jessica, is that Jessica? Okay, cool. I'm so bad with these names. Anyway, great show as always. Really wanted to hear the most intelligent, experienced caller we've ever had, but I guess he was just too smart for us logical humans. Hashtag what a dumbass. SPN sucks. Zerba for president. I too am very disappointed that Wade left us. He had so many credentials off the charts.
I'm embarrassed to share a name with him. Wade is my middle name. When I was a kid, I hated it because to me, wading was something you did in water, like in a creek. Why would you name me Wade? Like, why would you name me Walk in a Creek? I didn't know. And then I famously, when Patrick Swayze did the movie Roadhouse, the badass character that he goes to that's his mentor is named Wade, I think Garrett or something, but it's Wade.
Garrett.
So it became like a manly. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't think I want to go by Matthew anymore. I think I want to go by Wade. The problem is, in much the same way that you can't really give yourself a nickname very easily, you can't get everybody to start calling you by your middle name when you're 30 or 20 or whatever.
Call me Wade.
All right. Hi, Ian. Hi, Matt. How's your cookie snake doing? Oh, Cookies is great. Doing wonderful. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you so much.
$10 from Infinite Saxon. Matt, when you left Faith, did you ever damage relationships by not being wrong, but by how you challenged it? I still carry that weight. Do you ever feel that kind of regret too? What helps this?
Oh, I definitely damaged relationships by how I challenged it. I don't fucking regret it one bit. Because those people showed that our relationship was contingent on me agreeing with their bullshit. And I deserve better than that. And I don't care if it's my mother, my longtime best friend. I can find new people. I prefer the family that I chose. I prefer the relationships that value me for who I am and that I can respect. That's one of the reasons why I know other atheists who do. And, here we go for the other caller. God bless him. I couldn't date a theist. Not anybody who was serious, because I have to have respect for the person. And part of that is respect for their ideas to be in that kind of relationship. I could be friends and friendly with somebody. And I am friends and friendly with people who are believers. I couldn't be in a serious, committed, romantic relationship with a God believer. I know it. The people who can do it, like I said, God bless them. I can't. $10 again. Thank you so much from the Atheist Mechanic. By the way, for those who aren't aware, that snake there, I know I've talked about it before, that is a ball python, but it's specifically the morph is bamboo. Not that it matters to any of you, but I like it. I share the sentiment with others, and Seth Andrews even brought this up, but I will be celebrating the day that Cheeto Mussolini kicks a bucket. I know that sounds bad. You're getting back to Ronnie and talking about, and I said, I don't want to do bad things. The reality is there are things that other people might consider bad that I might not think is bad. I'm not a pacifist. I think that, as unfortunate as it is, we might have to wait for a generation or two to die off before some things get fixed. And I think that while war and conflict like that is reprehensible, it's become very clear that there are people who will not listen to reason, who will not be diplomatically moved, and we may have to kill people in order to protect others. I'm in favor of a right to self-defense, and I I'm not convinced that currently the United States or anyone we're actively aligned with is acting with those principles. I think we are back to unjustified conflict and war crimes more often than most people would admit. And so I, like most people that I know, have been like, God, I can't wait till this person here is dead. And if somebody, if anybody, who will rid me of this troublesome priest? Or, if somebody out there does it, I'm not going to feel a moment's sadness or badness. But I know myself, and I know what I can and can't do. And I still know what is right. But guarantee you, there is some point, some tipping point where what is wrong to do in this situation becomes absolutely a moral essential in another situation. It may be when you're intervening to actively save someone's life while they are physically, saving them from immediate physical harm. It may be at another time. I don't pretend to know where those lines are, but I'm with you. And the world is that way.
Two callers today. Ronnie was talking about, we talked about getting away with things, doing bad things, and we got off on that talk about would you do stuff if you know you could get away with it? And somebody else earlier had mentioned, I think, is it bad to to kill a Hitler or kill a Trump or whatever the deal was? And I remember thinking that's one of those. So, there's the old thought experiment. If you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you? And everybody goes, oh, yeah, of course. Well, we're kind of in that timeline right now, and none of you are doing it. So I think that it's a much harder question than we think, because we have to think about our personal ethics, and we have to think about, would I go to prison? What would happen? And that's one of those situations where I say, if I knew... Because I don't think in certain cases it would be wrong. Like if I had greater good again, if I think that taking out this person would save millions of lives or hundreds of lives or whatever it is, then I'm justifying that as the right thing to do. But would it cause, if I had to go to prison or get killed in the act or whatever, would that cause harm to my immediate family, my daughter, my wife, and my family? Yes, it would. So would I do it for that reason? No, I wouldn't. But it's one of those situations where there might be some people in the world that are doing so much harm that if I knew I could get away with taking them out, I absolutely would. And I'm not saying who that person is, but there are people out there that I can deem as much worse for the greater good, and I would absolutely in a heartbeat. But we're finding out that all the people that said they would do, if we knew in advance, if we could go back in time and take out Hitler, would you? Everyone says yes, but when the rubber hits the road, it's a much, much more difficult situation.
I really like the spin that Deadpool put on it. Like, okay, if you go back in time and kill Hitler, would you do it? Go back in time and kill him while he was in his crib?
Right.
Because that demonstrates, I would think most people would say no, but that demonstrates that there's some point even in Hitler's life where they reach tipping point where, yep, now from this point on, yes, this guy deserves to die. Prior to this, maybe not. The problem is I used to say that I'm not idealistically opposed to the death penalty. I am opposed to it as a pragmatic thing. I don't think we have built a system that is sufficient to reliably reach the conclusion that the people we're going to kill are the ones that actually might need to be killed if you have a category of need to be killed. I've since changed my position on that. I'm generally opposed to the death penalty on principle now, but there are bigger fish to fry. All right. $10 from Infinite Saxon. I've been wondering how people avoid becoming cynical. Sometimes it feels like the more I learn, the harder it is to hold on to that sense of wonder or even hope. Do you ever feel that way? Yeah, every day. I'm losing hope.
I'm the most. I can be the most cynical person on the planet at times. Yes, it's very, very hard. But the fact that you're aware of it and you're self-aware, you're self-aware that it's a problem and that you don't like it is the good thing, because that means that you can pull yourself away from being cynical when it's and no, don't let it consume you. There are definitely times when you just can't stop from being cynical, and it's justified. And there are times when you can go, all right, you know what? Maybe there is some good stuff here and there, and people you love and people you like, and things you enjoy doing and places you want to go, and there's things you can do that keep you from being cynical. But yeah, if you're a thinking person, you're probably going to have a lot of cynicism these days.
Yep.
$10 from Aliashana Silverbow. Singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth. That's a soap opera.
Wow.
There you go.
$10 from Albert Perez 5739. Matthew 24:7. Matthew came not to be served, but to serve. Matthew 24:7 is nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be famines and earthquakes in various places. Is that what you were referencing?
Matthew came to be served. Okay.
I'm afraid I don't get it. You don't have to do a whole nother super chat, but you can.
$10 from Better Living Through Chemistry. How can I talk to my sister about her belief in quantum? Think The Secret, but with the word quantum inserted. I screwed up talking to her about it before, but want to help her break away from this.
So she's buying into the notion that your thoughts manifest reality and that positive thoughts will produce positive things. Does she really think that the people who have no food and are starving aren't wishing as desperately as possible for food? Does she really think that the person who's drowning doesn't desperately wish they could get oxygen into their lungs? The notion that thinking stuff manifests it is patently absurd. The universe has shown us that it doesn't give a shit about us, that the unjust thrive on occasion, that bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people, and vice versa. It is exactly what would happen if the universe, what we'd expect to happen if the universe didn't give a flying fuck about us or justice or fairness or anything. That's the world we live in. If she can come up with evidence of this manifesting, I'd be impressed, because everybody who's tried, as it turns out, is engaged in a number of different fallacies of cherry picking and ignoring the hit or ignoring the misses and circling the hits, the sharpshooter fallacy. The big thing is to care about truth.
I always find it funny. I never worked it out, but I had a joke I was working on. I always find it funny that there's two things with people who believe these kind of superstitions. One is, if you think about it, you can manifest it. But when I was a kid, if you said stuff, or even as an adult, if you say something like, yo, man, I just went for a job interview, I think I'm going to get it. People go, whoa, don't jinx it. And I go, so wait a second. What kind of crazy fucking universe is like someone's up there on a cloud going, hey, he's hoping he gets that job. He said it out loud. Fuck that guy. Okay, next. Like it's just bizarre to me that I can think it all I want and be rewarded, but as soon as I speak it out loud, the universe is going to punish me. It's such a bizarre world, I guess.
Also, what's the mechanism for this?
Right.
$10.
Oh, hey, it's pounds. 10 pounds from the
and I think it was yours. Or no, this is mine. No, it's mine.
Okay.
10 pounds from At the Fuzzy Logic. The government is made up of millions of trustworthy civil servants. On the other hand, I don't trust politicians. It used to be that law shielded the former from the latter before Trump's EO. Yeah. The thing is, people are like, oh, we have the lawyers are taking over. We got too many lawyers. Everybody in Congress is a lawyer, and all this lawyer. You know why? Because lawyers are the ones that are experts at what? The law, the writing and creating and interpreting of the law. And this, we need to stand up against the experts, Don McElroy bullshit of electing anybody, whether they know anything about the law, is not good for the fucking law, which is why we don't have a rule of law anymore. And why when they come in and attempt to legislate away the right for two dudes to get married, they wind up accidentally writing in a way where the only reasonable interpretation of the law is that nobody can fucking get married, which would suit me just fine because I don't give a shit. But that's not what they wanted to do. They literally don't understand the basics of reason and the law well enough to do the fucking job. Unfortunately, as shitty as you think they are, you're actually better off with lawyers writing laws.
Yeah, who would you rather have? Who would you rather have writing the law or interpreting the law? A lawyer or Marjorie Taylor Greene? That's because that's who we have. $10 from, what is it? I don't even see again. In name glory? 7431. Turning 58 next month. In the last 6 months, every truth I've held about my country, land of the free, NATO, leader of the free world, etc., all my life has been torn down and left in smoking ruins.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're going to make it to our 250th anniversary. But that might be the last one. 250 years is a pretty good run. But
I agree. I think that's it. Was very odd this year, by the way. We were my family was in Mexico, and they were, 4th of July, and literally the 3rd of July is when they passed the big bullshit bill, and I'm like, this seems very kind of hard to celebrate liberty on the 249th, like the day before the 249th birthday, if you will. They passed that law that's basically thumb in the nose at everything it's supposed to believe or it's supposed to stand for. It was not a good 4th of July for me this year. Anyway,
I ignored the 4th of July. I don't have anything to celebrate related to freedom or independence. I second Queen Janelle's motion for Matt's Unholy Beer. This is $10 from Mr. Boricua 10. I move to put this to a vote presided over by the Council of Brents. All in favor of a vote, offer yay. All opposed, nay. Yay. Be well, all. Thank you so much. And the final super chat for today. What was that?
Again, from the atheist mechanic. I appreciate both of your comments. But what I was saying about trusting the government, I didn't mean anything bad by that. But I should have specified it was Trump appointees that I don't trust. Well, and I wasn't trying to bash on you. I was saying, I wasn't even saying what I get what you're saying. That's one of those things that we say all the time. And I'm just saying that the problem I have with not what you said is that when other people say that, sometimes you have to clarify what you mean by that, because if you say, yeah, people automatically assume that you mean the contrary, or the opposite of it, and that's not necessarily the case. That's all I was trying to make.
Yeah. We got more. $10 from Mr. Boricua 10 at Albert Perez 5739. Super chat might refer to the colloquial notion that a caller just got served, as in, dude, you just got served. Foo. Correct me if I be incorrect. I do not know.
Super chat. Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey. A pleasant evening to you, gentlemen. Missed the live show today. I hope we finally got that good reason to believe in God. You missed it.
Yeah.
Happened.
We all missed it because Wade ran away like a little baby.
Yeah.
It was just terrible because we weren't really impressed by his many years of expertise. $10 from Michael Dew 7904. Y'all accidentally skipped at Monkey at Typewriter Super Chat. It was one of the first 10, I think, and it was on screen but missed it. Okay. Thank you. Let me go back. $10 from Monkey at Typewriter. Regarding the platinum rule, does it add to say treat others as close to how they'd like to be treated as you are comfortable with? Is it just a pedantic add-on or valuable context? So the golden rule, as Jesus says it, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is bad. There's a better version that this is a paraphrase of in the Old Testament. My preferred version is something closer to the platinum rule, is treat people the way they would like to be treated. And then there are exceptions to that, because if you want to be punched in the face, I'm not the guy that's going to do it for you. I know plenty of people who would. Like, I know some people who would enjoy punching you in the face if that's what you're into. I'm not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think. But again, it all doesn't everything, shouldn't everything boil down to, on some level, into your intention? I mean, that's yes. If you want me to treat you a certain way, and I say, I totally respect that, but that violates mine, then you will be also respecting my wishes, and you'll go, great. You know what, Matt? I understand that you don't want to punch me in the face. No worries. I'll respect your wishes and not require you to punch me in the face.
There you go. See? Problem solved.
Is this a new one?
Yes.
Better through chemistry. On quantum, Sis thinks everything is connected through quantum, and the idea it might be true is enough to believe it. It hurts because she helped me deconstruct. Thanks for talking points.
Well, if the fact that it might be true is enough, how does she know it might be true? And how many other things might be true? And if it might be true, isn't it also the case that the opposite might be true? And so if she thinks that everything is connected through quantum might be true, and she also thinks that it might be true that everything isn't connected through quantum, then she has to believe both of them to be intellectually consistent, which means now she is conflicted. That's why we establish the burden of proof and set up a default position that we should not be convinced of anything until it meets the burden of proof, not just that it might be true. But I would bet money, serious money, that she has no way to demonstrate that it's possible that everything is connected through quantum. Like, it's nonsensical, untestable, unfalsifiable, wishful thinking, lucky socks level bullshit.
Oh, I want to hear what Monkey at Typewriter's super chat was. I wasn't watching at the time. Is that the one we just read?
Yes, that was the one we just read. Sorry. I'm also getting messages from my boss. 10 pounds from the Fuzzy Logic. Speaking of the government as a mod, Monkey at Typewriter is part of the government of this chat, and he says he sent a super chat that got missed. Should we trust him? I trust Monkey at Typewriter, and we went back and sorted it. And you guys gave extra money to let us know, so we're incredibly grateful for that. On that note, Ian, what have you got going on?
Nothing other than I was supposed to be at the SSA and I convention, and I decided and I couldn't, so I'm not doing much of anything. Still the same thing though. I'll tell you what, if there's any rich philanthropists, I'm still making my movie. I think I've talked about it last time. I've got a feature film that I wrote and directing. It stars Sean Astin, Margaret Cho, John Cleese, Abigail Breslin, Jay Moore, a few other people. I've already shot John Cleese's scenes. He did me a wonderful favor. And I'm trying to raise the rest of the money to make it. I need in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, investors or people who want to put product placement in the movie. It will be in the theaters. It will be all that. And hopefully, based on the cast, knock on wood, which I don't believe in doing. So if anybody's out there who's an investor or who has a product that they want to put in a movie that I could cleverly do without completely selling out, it's going to be a really incredible movie. It's called Standby. And if you don't, that's cool too. When it does come out in the theaters, please go see it. If you see a movie called Standby with Sean Astin and Margaret Cho and John Cleese, that's mine. I wrote it. Go please see it.
On that note, I think everybody in chat right now should put a thank you in chat for the lovely and talented all her heart as she heads out to go do some work for the Secular Student Alliance and others to support trans rights and everything else. If you have not, you should click like, you should click subscribe. You can go to linemerch.com to get some line merch, and you can support us by going to patreon.com/calltheline. Thank you, Ian, for joining me tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please be safe and take care of yourself, because the world is not getting any easier to live in right now. But I'm not giving up.